The Cabinet is expected to discuss and endorse Mamupelo's resignation today. Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu says he's saddened that Patricia de Lille's services will be lost to the city of Cape Town. The bus strike is dragging on into its fourth week, but a new offer has brought the parties closer to a settlement.
And later in sport, the Springbok Sevens team will be without key forwards Kyle Brown and Tim Magaba when they reassemble in Stellenbosch on Monday for the final two tournaments of the World Rugby 7 Series.
Welcome to SABC's Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankees. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Coming up this hour, we discuss the current land grabs and land invasions that have been taking place across the country in just a bit. Vela Kirtley is standing by with all your sporting highlights this morning. Very good morning to you, Vela. Good?
Very well, thank you. Hey, good to be with you, good to be with our viewers. I'll be bringing you your sports updates 1:45 every hour here on Newsroom. Let's go back to Shante for your news.
Having a look at your top story this morning, Cabinet is expected to discuss and endorse the resignation of Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo today. The embattled Premier has told SABC News that he will resign after meeting with his Provincial Executive Committee this morning. There have been violent protests across the Northwest over the past month as pressure mounted on Mahumapelo to vacate his position.
The Premier surprised many when he made a remark that signaled that he has finally accepted the inevitable. Premier's critics have cautiously welcomed news that their push for his recall is about to succeed.
We have even said today that not only the Premier must go, in fact his cabinet, a majority of his cabinet, there have been lame ducks there. They don't like the man, neither love the man, they fail to advise him. We see a dissolution of cabinet. Whoever comes in must reconfigure, put people with integrity there.
We welcome the departure of the Premier. We understood the English that he used, but in a nutshell is his departure. We just are waiting the officialization of that process, which is a letter that must be given to the Speaker by Friday.
The Interministerial Committee deployed by President Cyril Ramaphosa has concluded its work to investigate corruption allegations and lack of service delivery afflicting some provincial departments.
I think what we've tried to do is to work with the Northwest, with the people of Northwest. Whatever recommendations that the ministers are going to be making to the executive and cabinet is recommendations that are meant to stabilize the province and also to make sure that there is some stability in terms of service delivery of the people of Northwest.
One political analyst argued that even though Mahumapelo might agree to step down, the ANC will still be faced with a mammoth task to restore public trust and unite the party.
I like what Mahumapelo said. He said, it is time to mend the wounds and to bridge the chasm that divided us and indeed to move on. And having resigned voluntarily, it's much easier for him to be accommodated than if he had been pushed out.
For now, the ANC top officials remain mum about Mahumapelo's future, which will also form part of the discussions at the Cabinet's midweek gathering to be held in Cape Town. Tsepo Igandeng, SABC News, Pretoria.
In an exclusive interview with SABC News last night, Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo told us that from today he would no longer be in charge of the mineral-rich province. Well, this is how the conversation between the Northwest Premier and my colleague Aldrin Sampe.
By tomorrow, midday, Supra Overgang Ramoelet Mahumapelo will be the former Premier of the Northwest. That's what I'm saying. We are beyond that. We are living beyond what people are still perceiving, what people are speculating. That's why I'm saying what we need to follow is just the administrative processes which are prescribed in the Constitution. because I have to communicate with the executive tomorrow, the top management, and the Speaker of the legislature. So where I'm sitting, my mind, my soul, and everything else is beyond those speculations. I'm in another world already.
Meanwhile, political analyst Dr. Piet Kroukamp says that the ANC will have to choose some form within the Northwest to replace Supra Mahumapelo, as an outsider might not be welcome like it has happened in the past.
Well, first of all, we must remember Supra has cancelled or postponed this morning's press briefing indefinitely. In other words, he didn't say till after the PEC meeting, he said indefinitely, which tells me that whatever is being discussed there will be of such a serious nature that they don't know what the outcome of it may be. So I think it's precariously balanced this morning. It might just be that, remember also that the Premier last night already apparently handed in his resignation to the Speaker, Ms. Daniel. So to me it sounds like a lot of things has happened, and apparently it wasn't well orchestrated. The PEC, it might be that they think that the province need to come in for a soft landing. The likeliness of violence still prevails in many of the bigger towns. It is possible that things can go wrong depending on what the Premier said today, what was his reasons. What were his reasons for his resignation? I think that's where they're nervous about. What will he say? What led up to his resignation?
Now, this PEC meeting comes at a time when the ANC has actually said and been vocal about its support for the Premier. Even in the statement they released last night, they were quite vague about where to from here.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of people they will say whatever the PEC is, what Supra has said. In other words, it's quite possible that 2 weeks ago they said whatever Supra wanted them to say, and now he has changed his mind, he's going to resign, and they will calibrate their new collective view with what he has said. So I don't think they will say anything contrary to his opinion until he is resigned.
If you were to give some level of advice about who should be the successor from Supra, who would you say?
Look, there's the old war horse Tolo. I think it's very likely that he will be the next Premier. He's also the least offensive people, I think, to opposition parties, and as well as to the different camps, the different groupings within the ANC. I think it's very likely. It's not a clear case, but one thing that I do know is that the ANC at central level cannot impose somebody on this province. That will just create new troubles. They have to find somebody here that in some other way is amicable or is acceptable for all the different camps here. But if they impose somebody from the outside, and they have a long history of trying to do that, it will just stir the violence on again.
For more, we're now joined by our acting political editor, Ms. Sophie Mokoena. Very good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. Essentially, are we expecting that he will resign?
Well, yesterday, before he went on air, he confirmed to SABC that he will be resigning today, and he indicated that he feels it's time to give way to the alternative voice. And he indicated that but he has to follow certain processes. You are aware that when you are a premier or a president, you don't just resign. There are processes that needs to be followed. One, you must inform your provincial executive committee, that is the PEC, and we are told that that meeting is likely to happen this morning. Secondly, you have to inform the administration, you know, the DGs from different departments in that province, so that they can prepare better. But also you have to indicate or to inform the EXCO, that is the Executive Council. It's not a cabinet, but it's an Executive Council, the MECs. And secondly, you have to submit a resignation letter to the Speaker, so that the legislature can start a process also to prepare to elect a new premier. So it's not an overnight thing. It's a long process. But from Supra Mahumapelo himself, you heard him. It was a soundbite. He was live. He said today, indeed, he was going to resign. Perhaps he didn't realize that the process takes much longer. It's not so quick, and it will happen. It's just a matter of time.
You know, also just listening to the political analyst there, Piet Kroukamp, talking about his successor, specifically the Northwest being a very contentious province. Take us through the issues around that.
Well, Northwest is very complicated. It's a former homeland area, And you have to be very careful when you get someone to lead that province. You have to take into consideration whether he will be accepted by the citizens of that province. But secondly, it must be someone with experience. But when you look at the history of Northwest, it has never been easy. No single premier can claim that it has been easy for him or for her. There have been changes there, similar to Free State. And I think it speaks to the political question. You know, when it started after 1994, it was not fashionable. There were no ambitions. People were just there to serve the nation. But when they realized that their resources, you know, some people regard this as employment, but others also are there to continue or to fulfill their personal needs. So it is now a very contested terrain, you know, to be a premier. But I'm expecting that very soon the ANC at national level will give an indication who will be the premier, a person who will take the province up to the elections, because you'd recall that next year we are going to have elections in this country, national and provincial. Secondly, the province itself must go to a provincial conference next year where they are going to elect a new leadership. We don't know whether they will retain Supra Mahumapelo as the chairperson or there will be changes. And I want us to go back to 2007. You'd recall that towards 2007, Supra Mahumapelo was then the secretary of the province, and this province supported Thabo Mbeki. But after 2007, when President Jacob Zuma was elected the president of the ANC, and then Supra Mahumapelo experienced lots of challenges because many wanted him out. But he emerged and he became the chairperson, but he rallied behind the new leadership as per the tradition of the ANC that you can go to conference, you can differ, but when you come back and the election has taken place, there's a new leadership, even those who didn't support that particular leader, you have to rally behind the leader. He did the same. He supported President Jacob Zuma. Now again, you find a situation after Nasrec. Towards Nasrec, the province supported Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. But immediately after the conference, after the election, even during that conference, after the election, he indicated that the province moving forward, now it will support the current president, who is President Cyril Ramaphosa. So right now he's experiencing these challenges. I think going forward, he will continue to rally behind a new leader.
Definitely. Ms. Over, let's cross now to Northwest to actually see what is happening and what the reaction has been upon that possible resignation that we are expecting. A very good morning to you, St. Leeng. Take us through the situation on the ground this morning.
Good morning to you and our viewers. We're here at the Embassy Hall in Mahikeng, where Premier Mahumapelo has just arrived to meet with the PEC. Upon us arriving here, we were met by supporters of Supra saying that no Supra, no elections. And he went as far as to say that he, in fact, did not resign. His resignation had to have been done today, but was pulled back from that resignation because the PEC said he had not consulted with his provincial partners. What is happening now is that I'm joined by one of the PEC representatives, Mr. Morueng. Mr. Morueng, if you can divulge to us, what is the situation right now?
Now, look, like the Premier have reiterated, he said it clearly, loudly, to say he's going to meet with the Provincial Executive Committee. You must remember, the ANC is the center. Even the Premier is the deployee of the African National Congress. So therefore, he must come to the PEC, tell the PEC what exactly is happening. Because the decision for him to resign, the PEC does not understand it. The PEC need to be told, need to be taken through processes to understand what is really the fundamental issue that compels the Premier to resign. Because for us as the PEC, we have long said it. We support him. He came with fundamental economic radical program. So we don't see any reason for him to resign. So therefore, we are going to meet from 9 o'clock. The PEC is going to meet. Is going to outline all the issues. We are going to understand as to real what is the fundamental issue as to why the Premier is resigning. After then, it will then be the decision of the structure, should it be. Because like I've said to you, the ANC is the center.
Mr. Morueng, very radical stances that have been said here, that no Supra, no elections, that there will be no going forward for the ANC in the province if he is to resign. Do you align yourself with those sentiments?
Look, like the chair have also captured it. Here they are. You can interview them and understand to them as to what does that slogan mean. But as the PEC, like we have said, we're going to proceed with our meeting. But no Supra, no election, they are here behind me. You can ask them and understand what do they mean by that.
And at this juncture, what do we expect to happen? Because it seemed yesterday when he gave us an exclusive, as the SAB said, he was prepared to leave. He said today he would be known as the former Premier of the Northwest.
Even if that is the case, the Provincial Executive Committee is the center. It is the one that has deployed Comrade Supra. So it has called Comrade Supra. It is here to meet with Comrade Supra, understand the nitty-gritties of this matter.
As the PEC, you still align yourself with Supra Mahumapelo, irrespective of the allegations that have been leveled against him?
Comrade Supra, we have elected him in 2014. He's one of our own. We have confidence in him. He's a radical, progressive leader the ANC has ever produced in this province. So we support him 100%. That is our stance as the Provincial Executive Committee meeting. Those allegations levels against him must be dismissed because none of them has been proved in the court of law. Why can't people exercise patience and wait for the court of law to come with the outcomes as to whether he's guilty of corruption or not? That is the stance of the Provincial Executive Committee.
This current stalemate is going to create a very difficult situation for the successor should the Premier leave.
Look, that I can't tell. I'm not in a position to tell that whether the successor will have a difficulty in assuming power or not. But like I've said, our stance as the PEC is to meet with Comrade Supra, as the ANC is the center, and understand what is really happening as the African National Congress in the province.
If I can ask my colleague Brafani, if you can pan to our left there, you can see that mounting support is coming. People have come here to the embassy to reiterate their support for Supra Mahumapelo. They're saying that, in fact, there is no way that Supra will be allowed to leave the provincial executive without consulting with him, as he is who they believe it should be the rightful premier going forward. They believe post-2019 he should remain as the premier should the ANC win. I'm trying to go in and get a word from the guys carrying the banner. Brothers, if one of you can come a bit closer here. If you can come closer here and just share with us. Yeah, I've got one of our ANC members here. Abu Tuaka, tell us why there's railing support for Supra.
Supra is the Premier of the Northwest. Supra is the provincial chairperson of this province. We remain resolute that Supra is going nowhere. You tell Supra, you tell Cyril, finish and start.
This is a very difficult situation now because right now the situation has created quite a bit of a stalemate. The Premier released a statement yesterday with the SABC. He's willing to resign. It seems that you guys are not willing to see him go.
We'll listen to the Premier. If the Premier resigns, then we'll follow that. But for now, the Premier have not yet resigned. That is why we said we must wait, because people now are in the honeymoon. So it's a high time that as members of the ANC in this province to remove honey from the moon so that the moon can be bright.
Let's get Igamala Mankosigazi on this view. Mama, when I'm worrying about the Supra,
he's going nowhere. No vote, no Supra, no vote. We are not going to vote in Northwest. If Supra is not there, we are not going to vote. We are here for him today. Supra is not resigning today.
Mama, they say allegations the Premier is corrupt. His offices have been raided. They say his son got a bursary unlawfully. You still support him?
Proof first. And proven guilty. Before proven guilty, if a person is innocent. Until proven guilty. Even today, is still our Premier. That is why we are here to support him.
Mama, we've seen our province burn. People were burning Mafike saying the Premier was gone. Wow, you say, what if more violence erupts?
Northwest doesn't belong to Mafike. Northwest doesn't belong to Mafike. It belongs to Northwest as it is. From Mafike to Northwest as it is. It doesn't belong to Mafike. We are here as branches. We are here as branches.
Mama, if I could have your word in this, where are you from? What are you from?
I'm from Butanala sub-region. All I'm saying is no Supra, no elections. And we are not going to support something that we don't want. We want Supra to be our Premier in Northwest. They must come to our branches and tell us about what's going on with Supra.
Are you holding the province at ransom, Mama? Are you saying that if Premier leaves, then there's nothing that will go?
Yes, because they are holding him at ransom. He did nothing wrong. Philip Mapulan, they are busy conniving for Supra to go. Yes, they must go. Even Malema, we are not here for EFF. To hell with EFF.
My brother, where are you from and why is
I'm from Bujanala. I just want to send a message to the NWC and the NEC of the ANC. Supra Mahumapelo was elected by the branches of Bukolibu, was never elected by the NEC and the NWC. Yes. So, if ever they want Supra Mahumapelo to be removed, they must go to the branches of the ANC and consult with the branches of the ANC. Besides that, they won't be Supra who's going. And again, we just want to indicate something. In the ANC, we don't have a revolutionary council of Themba Gwaweni. Themba Gwaweni and Filima Pulani, they are planning the downfall of the Premier. They've stolen money in Madibe. Yes. They've stolen our money. Yes. They must be prosecuted. If ever not so, Supra will never go until they are prosecuted.
Even in your own region as itself, Bojana, there have been many instances of fragmentation of the ANC. Why not concentrate on unity in Bojana?
There will never be unity because of the NWC and the NEC of the ANC have interest in Bojana. The same people who supported Cyril Ramaphosa is them who are making instability in Bojana because they have interest of coming to government. So besides that, we are telling the NEC that there will never be peace, there will never be unity in Bojana as long as they are busy interfering into the matters of Bojana.
Yes. Let's start, my brother. Where are you here? Because we can see you are singing. Why are you here today?
I'm here today to say hands off Supra. The NEC must consult the branches of the ANC in Bukonubu Prima, and the branches of the ANC will take decisions of Supra Mahuma's future. Period. That's it.
No, if we can pan here to my right, we'll see. My brother, are you among these people who have reiterated this call that the Premier must not leave? Are you supporting the view that nothing should go forward if the Premier does not leave?
Yeah, I do. I support that because now, if you can look at these people here, all of these people we are sober-minded. And if you can look all the damages that have been happened here around Mafikeng, those people, they were under influence of something, alcohol and drugs. So they bring together a youth and then they buy drugs for them and then they give them mandate. We are not going to support that mandate. Yes. Our chairperson will stay here and remain as a premier.
Until he will never resign. Undertones that are coming from the declarations that if he is removed or resigns, nothing will go on. I mean, there's no.
Yes, no. If NEC decide to remove Supra Mahumapelo, there will not be election yet.
No elections. How would we then say if he leaves?
That's why we are not violent. And Mafikeng is not the only ANC in the Northwest.
The violence that happened to unseat the Premier did not only happen in Mafikeng.
Where else did it? Wait. Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. All right. So that was the places that they were being targeted. You understand? They targeted the places. So they were going region, sub-region, and what? We are waiting for them in Madibeng. If they come there, they will go out running in Madibeng. We are not going to tolerate this thing.
This is very clear. Let me invite you. One is that Northwest Province is not a banana province. Now, NEC cannot take decision based on emotions. Now, we can't be dictated by 4 wards, only 4 wards, and the surrounding areas. I mean, Northwest starts from Madibeng until that side. Now, there's no way that 4 wards can dictate to Northwest so that the Premier can resign. That Premier is a member of the ANC, is a provincial chair of the ANC, has been elected by branches. That's why we're emphasizing this matter, to say it's us who elected Supra as a member of the ANC to become the provincial chairperson. Now, if there's any decision that has been taken through government, now that decision must come back to branches and we need to be consulted. Because there's no way that a person can go there and take a decision on behalf of us. We need to be consulted. Now we are supporting the PEC meeting of the ANC. That is now unfolding to say, let the PEC decide. Now, after they've decided, they must also come back to us as branches to consult with us so that we must tell them How are we feeling about this matter? Because of we are not happy. Today you are changing a premier, tomorrow you are changing an MEC, tomorrow you will change. Now you are changing a president as if like you are changing your pants or something. We can't do that.
With all the support that we are seeing here, with scores of people having come from across the province to support the premier, we still expect to see much more of them come here and express their support for the premier, contrary to the violence we saw weeks ago, where they said that if the premier doesn't leave, more violence would go on. We still expect to see some outcome from the PEC meeting. Until then, back to you guys in studio.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that. And Lang coming just from the northwest in Mahikeng, as those ANC members have rallied behind what they have described their premier saying no Supra, no vote. Sophie, that's definitely something we didn't expect this morning. Let's just discuss the PEC and how exactly it works. Members from the PEC saying they elected Supra. They have not been informed about any reasoning behind his resignation and want to speak to him. Take us through the processes around that.
It's not the first time this happened. It's not the first time it happens in South Africa. Other provinces we have experienced similar tensions. I've made an example of Free State previously, where there were similar feelings around two perhaps candidates who were supposed to take over, or perhaps a removal of a chairperson as the premier of the province. So it's not unique, and that's what happens every time when you remove a leader. There are people who support that particular leader, and those who support that particular leader will fight back. But finally, the matter will be resolved. And like I indicated to you, Supra Mahumapelo told us that today he is going to submit his letter. Perhaps the mistake he committed was to go public before engaging the ANC structures, because this is how the premiers are appointed. First, after the conference, after the elections, the ANC province submits 3 names of individuals who can be considered for premiership. So the PEC would then submit these 3 names. Now, when you change, you have to go back to the PEC and say, yes, I'm resigning, and the PEC must say, yes, we accept, and then they must then submit another 3 names to the NEC, and the NEC can then say, let's get this person, elect this person at the sitting of the legislature. Therefore, they are talking about a process that needs to be followed. And I think it is for that reason the media briefing this morning was called off, to ensure that proper processes are followed.
You know, hearing one of the members there this morning saying that, you know, if we don't accept his reasons for resignation, then we're not going to accept that. What sort of powers does the PEC in you know, whether it comes to accepting resignations and recalls or not?
Well, they can say they don't accept, but finally it's up to Supra to say, no, if he says, I'm resigning, there's nothing that they can do.
Now, in terms of, you know, hearing...
It is the same, you'd recall with President Zuma as well. When he decided to step down right now, there were people who felt very strong then that he shouldn't do it. But he took a decision because in the interest of the organization, he decided that, let me step down. That's what Supra is saying. And I've made an example that in 2007, towards the Polokwane conference, he was supporting former President Thabo Mbeki. And then he had lots of problems. People wanted him out after that Polokwane conference, but he survived. And he supported President Jacob Zuma, who became the president then, rallying behind the leader. Even now, towards Nasrec, he was supporting, the province was supporting Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. But immediately after the conference, he made it clear that the province will now rally behind the current leadership. And I think it's from that position that even today, he is going to think about the ANC rather than him as an individual.
The PEC leadership structures in the northwest in Mahikeng, specifically this morning, those ANC members seem quite happy with Supra. They're saying, you know, he's our premier, you know, he's not guilty until proven guilty, and we want the NEC to stop interfering in the PEC structures. This seems to have opened another sort of can of worms of what's actually happening in the province.
There are other branches in the very same province who have a different view that he must go. And it is for that reason. And in every province, you have people who would support the premier and you will have people who don't support the premier. Even in the party, in the province, you will have people who support the sitting chairperson and those who don't support the chairperson. That's politics. Even at work, you know that you'll have people who would agree with you and you'll have people who don't agree with you. It's normal in any institution that you can't expect people to hold same views. Definitely. And I think if the other faction was to organize or mobilize people to go to that meeting, you will also have a sizable number of those who are saying he must go. That's the nature of politics. And it is for that reason Supra Mahumapelo must demonstrate leadership in a situation like this. If he feels strong that it is in the interest of the ANC for him to step down, he must then take his supporters on board and indicate and show them that this is my view. And if you really support me, you believe in me, you believe that I'm a real leader, you must trust me. It did happen after Polokwane. Mbeki was recalled, he left. Zuma was recalled, he left. And Supra is a premier, it's just a premier.
Thank you very much for joining us and unpacking at this morning. Acting political editor at SABC News, Sophie Mokwena. Let's continue with some other news stories this morning. Well, the situation remains very tense but calm in Proche Glen near Soweto following violent protests. Enraged homeowners in Extension 29 took to the streets after land grabbers occupied a piece of vacant land on Sunday. They say they'll do all they can in their power to keep the invaders from devaluing their properties. President Cyril Ramaphosa also revealed that around 140,000 submissions from South Africans have so far been received on the issue of land expropriation without compensation. For more on land grabs, we are now joined by constitutional law expert Bebelapi Dube. Very good morning, Chief. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Essentially, let's just have a look at the land grabs invasions that we're seeing, the highlights and the media attention that it's gotten over the past couple of weeks. Is it this situation spiraling out of control?
Well, it would appear as if the situation is spiraling out of control, and I'm sure it obviously feeds into the current debates about possible land expropriation without compensation. But of course, it speaks to the general land hunger, and it speaks to the sense of disillusionment that a lot of people have about the current status of land reform in general. But it perhaps shines a spotlight on the fact that there is a need for urgent redress, particularly in urban areas.
In terms of that need for redress and actually communicating on what this land without compensation actually means, what needs to be done specifically from a government level in being able to communicate that?
Well, I think it's also important to bear in mind that, well, first of all, starting with the Constitution and then flowing from the Constitution, if one looks at the various laws that are in place, I think there's already a robust mechanism that seeks to ensure that landless South Africans are able to access land, and also within the urban context, that people aren't being arbitrarily evicted from their places of dwelling. And even if people are lawfully occupying vacant pieces of land, there are mechanisms to ensure that their dignity is kept intact. There are mechanisms to ensure that municipalities provide such individuals with alternative accommodation. But of course, I think it speaks to the bigger problem on hand, the fact that there just appears to be poor communication between the state, between local government officials, and also people on the ground not fully understanding the true extent of their rights and what their entitlements are in this regard.
In terms of, the land invasions and the land grabs that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, let's talk about the fact that they've been politicized to some point.
Well, absolutely, it would appear that that is the case. But at the same time, I think it's really shining the big spotlight on the fact that despite the available robust mechanisms that allow for the state to effect measures to address landlessness and to address homelessness, there's been very little that's been done in that regard. So, of course, I think it essentially feeds into that narrative, and it's very easy for certain individuals or certain political parties to then seize the state of affairs and, in a sense, influence the public discourse. And I think this is what's leading to the rise in land grabs that we're currently seeing at the moment.
In terms of the mechanisms and the rights that you mentioned, specifically for, possibly some of those people that are illegally invading land, let's have a look, on the other hand, case in point, what's just recently happened in Prote Glen in Soweto, with residents saying they've also just woken up and seen land invaders on their property without their consultation. What are their rights?
Well, it absolutely speaks to, I think, the balancing nature of the Constitution. If we consider that, on the one hand, property owners are entitled to certain protection of their property, but on the other hand, landless individuals and homeless individuals, in terms of the Constitution, are also entitled to certain redress. So, of course, it's also important that going forward, that this balancing nature of the Constitution be reflected, that on the one hand, due process is followed, that the rule of law is obeyed, but on the other hand, we also need to bear in mind existing pieces of legislation such as the Prevention of Illegal Eviction and Unlawful Occupation, that's commonly known as the PI Act, which tries to ensure that people aren't being arbitrarily evicted from their homes. And it makes it clear that if individuals are being evicted, then municipalities have a duty to step in and provide alternative accommodation. So these are the kind of redress measures that are available. But of course, going forward, it's just important to bear in mind that these are really a competing set of interests. On the one hand, landowners, property owners have every single right to obviously protect their property. But on the other hand, it's also important to ensure that more South Africans, especially landless and homeless individuals, are able to access such benefits as well.
In terms of the structures and the processes that you mentioned, both with regards to legislation as well as the Constitution, what essentially then needs to play out or happen, over the course of this expropriation and the land compensation debate?
Well, I think for me, the pity is that the debate ultimately is coming down to individuals being pitted against each other. That is, individuals with property versus individuals without land, without homes, and without property. Yet the reality is that the state needs to be playing a much more robust role. The state needs to firmly insert itself into the middle of all of these debates, because in terms of the Constitution, it's really up to the state to make land, to make homes available. And I think in the absence of the state, or in the absence of, or rather in the presence of state maladministration, we're seeing these inevitable clashes. But the reality is that the state should be playing a much more bigger, a much more prominent role in this regard.
If that role is not played and it's not taken by the state, over the next couple of months, what are we seeing some of the main challenges and the main issues that could possibly come to the fore?
Well, I think at the heart of it really is the question of where South Africa is headed, just the notion of social cohesion. If the state is really unable to meet the demands or to meet all of these competing demands. But of course, at the same time, we also need to bear in mind that we're heading towards an election year. And if politicians are anything to go by, then it stands to reason that they'll be seized of this matter and that they will start giving this matter, it's quite the urgent attention that it deserves. So going forward, it's highly likely that, and of course, we are seeing that at the moment, this debate about expropriation without compensation, this debate about ensuring that more individuals have access to land is very much at the forefront of public discourse. So going forward, it's quite likely that the state will start to pay more attention. But of course, it's perhaps a little too late if we consider the spate of land grabs that have been taking place across the country.
Bebelapi Dube, expert, constitutional law expert, talking to us about land grabs and land invasions. Thank you very much for your time this morning. On that note, we'll take a short break here on SABC Newsroom. Do stay tuned when we come back. Availing Kirtley with all your sporting highlights.
technology is used for both positive and negative.
Some governments block the internet in times of protest.
With this internet blackout, it's impossible for me to do it, so I have to travel to Douala.
This act is a true violation of the rights of citizens.
In Africa, people are always coming up with innovative ways to use technology to solve some of their problems.
The more interesting piece of technology is actually the artificial intelligence.
AI, it's utilizing data to make your life easier.
On Network, we'll give you Africa's technology and social media news.
Catch Network with Spumelele Zondi every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's bring you your sports news now. The Springbok Sevens team will be without key forwards Kyle Brown and Magaba when they reassemble in Stellenbosch on Monday for the final two tournaments of the World Rugby 7 Series. Brown, their most experienced squad member, will undergo knee surgery next Tuesday to repair ligament damage sustained in Singapore last month. Agaba's season was also cut short due to a bicep injury. The Blitzboks are currently second on the HSBC World Rugby 7 Series log after 8 tournaments. They trail Fiji by 3 points and will have it all to play for as they aim to defend their series crown, first in London and then in Paris. Neil Powell's side made the top 4 in all 8 tournaments thus far, pointing to their consistent performances since the opening tournament in Dubai in December last year. There's a bit of good news, however, for the team on the injury front, with Chris Dry, who underwent knee surgery in December, recovering well as he aims to be ready for the Rugby World Cup Sevens, which takes place in San Francisco from the 20th to the 22nd of July. And legislation governing sporting events is lacking and it needs to be reviewed. This was agreed upon in Parliament during a joint sitting of the Police as well as the Sport and Recreation Committees. MPs were briefed by the Premier Soccer League and the SAPS on how and why violence erupted after a soccer match at the Moses Mabhida Stadium last month. The committees heard that Cabinet has already approved a review of the Safety at Sports and Recreational Events Act.
Scenes from last month's match between Kaizer Chiefs and Free State Stars. These images shocked the country and could have far-reaching implications for South Africa.
These incidents have a great potential to tarnish the reputation, as Capital South Africa has worked very hard and invested heavily post-apartheid to position ourselves as capable to host mega events.
SAP says the initial assessment prior to the match categorized the event as medium risk, while the Deputy Police Minister Bongani Mkongi said the growing hooliganism at sporting events is a national security threat. The PSL acknowledged that the current legislation is not adequate.
When you look at the legislation, there's no deterrent on the side of the supporters. And that is why it's easy, free right for them to commit whatever crime in the stadium, because there's no obligation on them.
Cabinet has already approved a review of SASRIA. And a judicial inquiry into violence at sporting events has already been requested by the Sport Ministry. 7 people have been arrested so far, and they will all be back at court on the 25th of this month. The net is also closing in on other suspects responsible. Police have released photographs of 12 suspects they are looking for. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Staying with football-related news, Black Leopards and Jomo Cosmos are keen to book their ticket to the lucrative ABSA Premiership next season. The two former top-flight clubs qualified for the promotion playoffs last Sunday. They'll be joined by the team that finishes in 15th spot on the ABSA Premiership log, and the playoffs kick off in a week's time.
As the 2017-2018 season is nearing the end, the focus shifts to the promotion-relegation playoffs. The ABSA Premiership and the National First Division champions have already been confirmed. Highlands Park, under the stewardship of Owen Dagama, will be promoted automatically. They collected 69 points from their 30 matches to finish top of the NFD log.
Believe in us. He told us the first game when he came in, said, "Gents, no Makanjan, we're going to PSL." And you can see the fruit of this man. Hard work always, it pays in the field of play.
It is still not clear who will join Ezenkosi and Dilito Tatuba in the promotion relegation playoffs. The last round of the ABSA Premiership matches will be played this Saturday, and all the matches will kick off at 3 p.m. One of these four clubs, Baroka FC, Bulukwane City, SuperSports United and the Ajax Cape Town, will be in the playoffs come next Wednesday. Only 3 points separate 15th placed Ajax and Baroka, who are 12th on the log. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
And with 36 days before the 2018 FIFA World Cup kicks off, the World Cup trophy has arrived in Yekaterinburg. The most coveted prize in global football now starts a cross-country tour of hosts Russia ahead of the 2018 tournament. The trophy visited Vladivostok and Novosibirsk and is set to tour the rest of Russia's host cities, which include Moscow, St. Petersburg, Samara, Kazan, Rostov-on-Don and Nizhny Novgorod. The trophy had toured Russia's smaller cities between September and December of last year before going on a 51-country tour around the world. The trophy was unveiled by former Russian gymnast and FIFA World Cup ambassador Lisan Yoycheva at two separate events for the Yekaterinburg public and for the media. And netball fans are in for a treat this weekend as the 5th edition of the Brutal Fruit Netball Premier League gets underway in Johannesburg. The tournament will run for 6 weeks until June the 17th.
Mopped up by the league, which has been a successful breeding ground for the national team, will see 150 of the country's best players representing 10 teams from across the country. The Gauteng Jaguars are the defending champions, finally winning the title that evaded them in 3 previous finals.
It's a great opportunity, the platform we're given right now. So playing in the Brutal Fruit Premier League is an opportunity for every girl to showcase their talents and hopefully one day wear the green and gold. I don't think any girl is playing just for the fun of the game or for the passion. After a while, you kind of want to go professional, want to go overseas, want to get that experience and represent our country first and foremost.
Netball South Africa also has their sights set on hosting the 2023 Netball World Cup, and a successful tournament will certainly boost their campaign.
And as we had the president of SASCO, they have to do all the ticks. Everyone has to do the ticks for us to host the 2023 World Cup. INF 100% behind us. They're even saying to us, we will help where we can. And we are saying, come on, let's all do this together, because if we are all in, it will never be impossible.
Not only is the Flame side physically strong. The action starts on Friday at the Ellis Park Indoor Arena with the Kingdom Stars against the Northern Cape Diamonds, while the Jaguars begin their title defense on Saturday morning, also against the Diamonds. Samantha Mari, SABC News, Johannesburg.
In cycling news, Belgium's Tim Wellens of the Lotto Soudal team took the 4th stage of the Giro d'Italia, which ended in a grueling uphill sprint as the Tour finally made it onto Italian soil. The narrow streets of Caltagirone in Sicily could barely contain the peloton, and the resultant bottlenecks impeded the progress of many cyclists near the back. The 202-kilometre 4th stage culminated at the top of the town, with the final kilometre entirely uphill with gradients of 13%. Wellens latched onto the wheel of Italy's Enrico Battaglin with 300 metres to go and launched his attack as the Italian tired to clinch the stage victory. Australia's Rohan Dennis of Team BMC still leads defending champion Tom Dumoulin of Sunweb by 1 second in the overall standings. Moving on to tennis, Milos Raonic overcame third seed Grigor Dimitrov 7-5, 3-6 and 6-3 to reach the third round of the Madrid Open to set up an all-Canadian clash with teenager Denis Shapovalov. Shapovalov had earlier produced a relentless display of big hitting to deny France's Benoît Paire the perfect 29th birthday present with a 7-6, 4-6, 6-4 victory. Raonic edged a tight clash against an opponent he had only beaten once before, with Bulgarian Dimitrov struggling to build up momentum ahead of the French Open later this month. World number 6 Juan Martin Del Potro started with a 6-3, 6-3 win over Bosnia's Damir Zumher to reach the third round. The Argentine saved 2 of 3 break points with 19 winners and 20 unforced errors to set up a clash with Dusan Lajovic. And in other news coming out of Madrid, Croatia's Borna Koric upset 9th seed Pablo Carreno Busta 6-4 and 6-2. Koric fought back from 4-3 down to win 5 straight games en route to a second straight victory over the Spaniard, who he also beat at the Qatar Open earlier this year. In sailing news, Spanish team Mapfre stunned the Volvo Ocean Race fleet by stealing a win on leg 8. The team took a 3-point overall lead with a shocking come-from-behind victory into Newport on Rhode Island. With just 300 miles to go on Monday, Mapfre was in 5th place. As Tuesday morning dawned and with the fleet ghosting towards the finish line in extremely light and shifty winds, Xavi Fernandez's team was among the leading quartet, battling in slow motion with Team Brunel, Dongfeng Race Team and Vestas 11th Hour Racing. With the leaders just 500 meters from the finish line, Mapfre was still trailing Team Brunel as the pair emerged from the fog within sight of the spectators at the Fort Adams Race Village. But Fernandez's crew made a final surge to take victory. There are 3 more legs of the race before it reaches its conclusion in The Hague. The next leg begins on the 20th of this month from Newport to Cardiff. And 4 Kimberley High School gymnasts are off to Greece to compete for the Royal Crown in rhythmic gymnastics. They started gymnastics at the tender ages of 5 and 6 and are still going strong.
Practicing to represent their country on an international stage, these girls have been strutting their stuff from an early age, and nothing can hold them back from competing against the best in the world.
I'm doing what I'm doing because I like doing rhythmic gymnastics and I like all the flexibility things that we do.
I started when I was 6 years old and since then I've never stopped loving it and doing it.
This sport really it indicates to elegance, flexibility, dance, and it helps younger kids to live a better future.
It takes you out of your normal environment and it gives you a better chance in life of your future because you can coach and you can compete internationally, and it also gives you more life skills so that you can be better with people because you train with lots of different people.
A very daring sport which they hope to turn into a career.
Rhythmic gymnastics is the most elegant sport and it teaches the girls a lot of discipline, and I love the sport. So obviously I want to teach them so that they can excel in the sport and make a future and a career out of it.
The competition will be held from the 16th of May until the 20th. The girls hope to bring back the coveted trophy and participate in the World Cup later this year. Reginald Vidboy, SABC News, Kimberley.
And our newsroom question of the day when it comes to sports, SANZAL, the governing body for Super Rugby, says that South African teams are not threatening to leave the competition, that's Super Rugby. Media reports over the weekend claimed that South African franchises will join the lucrative Europe-based Pro 14 next year. So that's what inspired today's question. Would you support such a move? Here's what a couple of you had to say at SABC Newsroom. Stephen Moloto says almost everything that SARA have denied before has turned out to be exactly as alleged. Michael Big M Sitole says most of us who understand rugby will be against it, as we all know that the Southern Hemisphere is the strongest region in rugby, but it doesn't matter what we think because these days it's all about the money. And if Saria has been paid, do you think they care what we think? Master says it wouldn't be a good idea to divorce the Southern Hemisphere to go far away, even though I'm not clued up on the reasons behind it. Thank you very much to everybody that got involved. We've got 2 hours left of the show, so you can still send in your comments on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Seatley is standing by to bring you the weather.
Very good day and welcome to the weather desk. Now, taking a look at the satellite image, we see a couple of things. One, we're seeing that there are no clouds in the southern part of the continent, and of course in the extreme northern part, then they're all sitting here over the central interior, and with that we are expecting some rain. I'll get to that in a second. First, let's take a look at the temperatures in the extreme southern parts of the continent. Now, as you may know that yesterday we had a cold front cooling down temperatures, especially in the Western Cape province. We're seeing now the effect of that cold front. Behind it, very cold temperatures, Sutherland only peaking at 17 degrees, Cape Town at 18, and all along the southern coastline we're seeing the shade of green showing us that it is cold, especially over the eastern Cape's interior, including Lesotho, as you can see here in the shade of green. But as we move towards the eastern parts, looking at the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, KwaNongoma, Ulundi, we're seeing now warm to hot temperatures, especially in the Lowveld, looking there, and the Lowveld in Mpumalanga and Limpopo provinces, where we're seeing highs of above 30 degrees. Looking at Beitbridge, which is peaking at 31, it is hot even in southern parts of Mozambique, Madagascar peaking at 32, clear skies for both Zimbabwe, Botswana, including Namibia, which is peaking at 26, capital city Windhoek. And further north now, we do see that these rains here, as they do at this time of the day, we're seeing clear skies and calm weather. But as the day progresses, we're seeing it developing, becoming more but isolated over the central interior of the DRC. But overnight now, we're seeing this rain just moving slowly along the border between the DRC and the Central African Republic. And with that, we're expecting some heavier rains. As you can see, it is highlighted in a darker shade of purple, and of course in places just closer towards Cameroon. Otherwise, for tomorrow in the morning, this is the same picture that you have today. We're seeing clear skies and a calm day over most of the DRC. Now, your temperature is 32 is your high in Kinshasa, Libreville at 30 degrees, still hot in the Central African Republic. We're seeing Bangui peaking at 34, including South Sudan. Juba is at 34 as well, while in Ethiopia, it's a different picture. The highlands have cooled down due to the rains, seeing Addis Ababa at 26. And as we move down towards the southern parts, we're seeing warm temperatures in Mombasa at 28 and Dar es Salaam also at 28. But Kenya's interior, in Nairobi, we're seeing half 23, cooler temperatures. In the northern parts, clear skies mostly, but you see the rain now moving towards places like South Sudan and moving further north, but not really reaching most of Sudan, where we'll see in a second that is very hot. Temperatures reaching highs of 43 there in Khartoum, 39 in Al Fashar, while as we move towards the central interior, still hot in Al Jawf with a maximum of 32 degrees. Over most of the Middle East, very hot temperatures, 39 in Mecca, and Riyadh at 37 and Cairo 32. Now, as we move towards the western parts, it gets interesting. We're seeing rains developing around about 12 o'clock. As you can see, they have developed over most of the central parts of Africa. We're seeing these rains in the Central African Republic, including the DRC, going towards Cameroon. But in West Africa, it's a different picture. It hasn't developed at 12 o'clock. We're seeing lots of clear skies. But just after 12 o'clock, around about 2 and 5 o'clock, we're seeing lots of rain here over the coastal areas, including the adjacent interior. Not really reaching places such as Bamako in Mali and N'Djamena in Niamey, but it is only along the coastal areas. And of course, just like always, it dissipating overnight. And tomorrow morning, this is the picture that you're getting, clear skies across Nigeria and most of these West African countries. Now, your temperatures are as we expect. We're seeing very hot temperatures in places such as Mali, including N'Djamena, 41 degrees, 44 in Niamey, Agadez, also in the extreme hot temperatures. And that's where I will leave my weather. Have yourself a great day.
This is your midday report. Good afternoon.
I will be faithful. I assume as President of the Republic of Kenya.
Let's take a look at how African markets and currencies are performing now.
The central bankers say the success of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is just a bubble.
Breaking stories, detailed economy and sport. Tune into Midday Report every Monday to Friday from 12 p.m.
The Northwest Premier Supra Momopelo has abandoned his resignation and says it is now up to the Provincial Executive Committee in the province to decide his fate. Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu says he's saddened that Patricia de Lille's services will be lost to the city of Cape Town. The bus strike is dragging on into its fourth week, but a new offer has brought the parties closer to a settlement.
And in sport, the Springbok Sevens team will be without key forwards Kyle Brown and Tim Agaba when they reassemble in Stellenbosch on Monday for the final two tournaments of the World Rugby 7 Series.
Very good morning to you and welcome to SABC Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankees. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Very happy Wednesday to you if you have just tuned in. Coming up, we'll give you those live updates on the resignation or not so resignation. The future hangs in the balance of the Northwest Premier Supra Momopelo. We'll be giving you updates on that. I'm not alone. Valen Kirtley is standing by this morning with some of your sporting highlights. Very good. Happy Wednesday to you, Valen. It's the middle of the week, hump day.
Well, yes, we after today are downhill into the weekend, and the weekends are my favorite time because then it's all sports all the way. Good morning to you, Shante. Good morning to our viewers. Good to be with you. At 1:15 of the hour, I'll be bringing you a look at what's been happening in your sports world. For now, though, back to Shante for your news.
Very good morning to you. Let's have a look at your lead story at the top of the hour. In a turn of events, Northwest Premier Supra Momopelo was expected to resign this morning. However, his supporters in the province say no Supra, no elections. Earlier, our reporter Sentleng Lehe spoke to ANC provincial member on the confusion regarding Momopelo's position as a premier.
The Premier reiterated, he said it clearly, loudly to say he's going to meet with the Provincial Executive Committee. You must remember, the ANC is the center. Even the Premier is the deployee of the African National Congress. So therefore, he must come to the PEC, tell the PEC what exactly is happening. Because the decision for him to resign, the PEC does not understand it. The PEC need to be told, need to be taken through processes as to understand what is really the fundamental issue that compels the Premier to resign. Because for us as the PEC, we have long said it. We support him. He came with fundamental economic radical program. So we don't see any reason for him to resign. So therefore, we are going to meet from 9 o'clock. The PEC is going to meet, is going to outline all the issues. We are going to understand as to real what is the fundamental issue as to why the Premier is resigning. After then, it will then be the decision of the structure, should it be. Because like I've said to you, the ANC is the center.
Mr. Morueng, very radical stances that have been said here, that no Supra, no elections, that there will be no going forward for the ANC in the province if he is to resign. Do you align yourself with those sentiments?
Look, like the chair have also captured it. Here they are. You can interview them and understand to them as to what does that slogan mean. But as the PEC, like we have said, we're going to proceed with our meeting. But no Supra, no election. They are here behind me. You can ask them and understand what do they mean by that.
And at this juncture, what do we expect to happen? Because it seemed yesterday when he gave us an exclusive, as the SAB said, he was prepared to leave. He said today he would be known as the former Premier of the Northwest.
Even if that is the case, the Provincial Executive Committee is the center. It is the one that has deployed Comrade Supra. So it has called Comrade Supra. It is here to meet with Comrade Supra, understand the nitty-gritties of this matter.
As the PEC, you still align yourself with the Supra Momopelo, irrespective of the allegations that have been leveled against him?
Comrade Supra, we have elected him in 2014. He's one of our own. We have confidence in him. He's a radical, progressive leader the ANC has ever produced in this province. So we support him 100%. That is our stance as the Provincial Executive Committee meeting. Those allegations levels against him must be dismissed because none of them has been proved in the court of law. Why can't people exercise patience and wait for a court of law to come with the outcomes as to whether he's guilty of corruption or not? That is the stance of the Provincial Executive Committee.
This current stalemate is going to create a very difficult situation for the successor should the Premier leave.
Look, that I can't tell. I'm not in a position to tell that whether the successor will have a difficulty in assuming power or not. But like I've said, our stance as the PEC is to meet with Comrade Supra, as the ANC is the centre, and understand what is really happening as the African National Congress in the province.
Well, the ANC in the Western Cape is currently briefing the media following yesterday's decision by the DA to revoke Delil's membership, citing a clause in its constitution which states that if a member declares their resignation from the party publicly, the person's membership is automatically seized. Let's cross live.
Congress, and next to him we have Comrade Xolani Sotashi, who is the leader of the opposition in the city of Cape Town, and we have the Chief Whip also, Comrade Thandi, with us. I don't have to tell you why we are here. I think that we have all been witness over the last 24 hours to an unconstitutional attempt to capture the city of Cape Town. The ANC was tempted yesterday to rush to comment, but we believe that it was more prudent of us to study the situation, watch the developments, examine all the legal and political aspects of the matter, and then to give our considered opinion and response this morning. And so in that spirit, I ask our Provincial Secretary, Comrade Faiz Jacob, I should not have assumed. I've been away for a while. I'm Ibrahim Rasool. I do many things, but in this capacity, I'm head of the ANC's election campaign in the Western Cape. So having gotten that out of the way, I want to ask Comrade Faiz Jacobs to read the official position of the ANC, and we will then follow it up with other comments from here before opening it up to all of you for questions. Comrade Faiz.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. ANC statement on the crisis in the city of Cape Town. The Democratic Alliance baffling attempt to axe Patricia de Lille as mayor of the city of Cape Town has plunged one of the country's biggest metros into an ever deeper crisis, with some 4 million residents already reeling from the DA's catastrophic mismanagement of the drought. Cape Town's local economy has taken a severe knock as the result of the water restrictions imposed by the DA administration, placing thousands of jobs at risk. Residents who have been doing their best to save water are being punished for their efforts and will now, according to the city's budget and by the DA's administration's own admission, will now have to pay 55% more for domestic water consumption. Let's say from the outset, it is entirely disingenuous for the DA to claim that Patricia de Lille is solely responsible for the city's woes. This washing of hands is a mind-boggling failure to take responsibility and account for the decisions taken by the DA caucus. The length to which the DA has gone to get rid of Mayor Patricia de Lille has shown up the party for what it really is: a racist, elitist party which aims to protect white privilege at the expense of African, colored, and Indian communities. The DA pretends to have the interests of all its members at heart, but is clearly using blacks, and when we say black, we broadly include African, colored, and Indians, to entrench colonial and apartheid privilege. Even DA leader Musi Manimani must now be doubting the action he has taken against de Lille, following the attacks that he has to endure after saying on Freedom Day that South Africans must confront white privilege and black poverty. The ANC commends Maimane for telling the truth, but he must also explain why he has not acted in equal measure against the Western Cape Premier, Helen Zille, who continues to insult black South Africans by justifying colonialism. The DA has once again shown its total disregard for the people of Cape Town with its anti-democratic, racist actions in the city. The DA's perpetual state of crisis is a major cause of governance failure in the city of Cape Town. Racism of the white bosses in the DA and the collusion of foreign business interests on various lucrative contracts, including the desalination contracts, is tearing the DA apart. DA members such as the Lil are being sacrificed at the altar for the DA to build a financial fund to fight the ANC. The evidence results of this crisis is that the City of Cape Town's draft budget presented in March was rejected by some DA members, trapping the critical functions of the city into its internal DA party political battles. More than 39,000 people also have rejected the city's budget, proposed budget. This on top of the failures of the DA-run city to spend its budget. I think we've all known that there's under-expenditure in the human settlement budget, while the people of Cape Town suffer homelessness, crime, water shortages, and failures of all other critical services, has caused a situation where communities find themselves at each other's throats, in Mitchell's Plain and Isikalo, for example. The proposed 55% increase in water tariffs, while still not delivering the water to the people, shows the callous and self-interest character of the DA. The ANC holds no brief for Patricia de Lille, but good governance and constitutional order is being undermined by the DA. As the ANC, we view the DA's de Lille clause as a violation of both the City Council independence and the executive mandate of elected officials as elected by the people of the City of Cape Town. De Lille and other councillors are deployed by their political party, but are ultimately elected by the citizens of Cape Town to the City Council. This point we want to emphasize. The DA cannot use public officials to do their dirty work. The ANC will protect good governance in the city and focus all political parties to work for the city and nothing else. The absence of Maimane at the press conference that announced de Lille's axing was very telling. This, on the heel of the spat between Maimane and Mazoni, shows the depth of the DA racial crisis. The ANC also supports all legal attempts to get to the bottom of fraud, forgery of the AG's signature on the fake news story about de Lille. All those involved, directly or indirectly, must be prosecuted. This kind of tactics is reminiscent of apartheid-style stratcom strategy that was used to fight political battles. Tony Leon must also answer for his role in this, as his company has the tender to run the communications in the city. As the ANC, we have asked all our councillors and the council of other parties to reject the de Lille clause from being ratified. The ANC supports constitutionality, the rule of law, and good governance, and will not allow the DA to undermine that they're using their party constitution that supersedes the council. We will put our weight behind the secret ballot for a free voice of democracy and the protection of all those who want to exercise their democratic right within council. We have received reports of intimidation tactics by the DA on its councillors who have voted against these unconstitutional tactics on the mayor. And we want those public representatives to be free to vote with their conscience. The ANC is prepared to petition the national government to bring an end to the circus. And in this regard, where the crisis persists, we will ask national government through the Department of Local Government and Cooperative Affairs, COCTA, to put the City of Cape Town under administration for the following reasons. Party divisions on the city budget threatens stability and also possibility of the failing to pass a budget in the City of Cape Town. The under-expenditure of close to 2.1 billion rand. The racial polarization resulting from this DA caucus that is dividing our peoples representatives based on racial lines, which inevitably divides our people and also exacerbate the crisis of service delivery and on the Cape Flats. Instability in the Mako caused by this DA internal divisions. Conclusion. If it's easy for the DA to purge a leader such as Patricia de Lille, who gave them a 2/3 majority vote in the city, what does it say about the DA's ease with which it purges its ordinary members? The DA has made communities who have voted for them indispensable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Faiz, and I ask Comrade Kolani Sotashi to update us with what is happening from the ANC side in the city of Cape Town.
No, thank you very much, Comrade Ib. Thanks, Comrade PS, for reading the statement on our behalf as ANC. Look, I think what we can term in terms of what is happening in the city of Cape Town, it's a kind of an alternative power matrix where rogue officials within the city are actually taking over the city of Cape Town illegally. Why do I say so? This is a manufactured chaos. You have individuals who are not part and parcel of the city establishment in terms of the administration itself, but they do interfere in the affairs of the city of Cape Town. In this regard, I'm referring to the leader of the opposition, that is Musi Maimane. Musi is in possession of the confidential information of the city of Cape Town. That does not belong to him. That does not belong to the party. The DA, as a party, publicized a restricted information of Cape Town without the consent of the city of Cape Town. That is in violation of the Cooperative Governance Act. So what we need to do then, we are calling on the national minister to consider these serious issues that we are raising. Secondly, we know for a fact that the issue of de Lille being removed from her position, it's not about her performance as the mayor of Cape Town. There is a bigger picture here. We want to bring to the attention of national government to investigate the city of Cape Town, this manipulation of water crisis within the city of Cape Town, and the pre-selection of a company outside of South Africa to build the desalination plants here in Cape Town. So these are the very important issues, because we do have information that when we connected the dots, that this company projected the cost of 6 billion rand. In return, the DA will receive over 600 million rand for their election machinery for next year's elections. So these are the serious issues that national government must really zoom in and investigate. Because even if you look at the draft budget now, the city of Cape Town in that draft budget is proposing over 19 billion rands for the next 5 years, which the 9.7 billion rand is for capital projects, and 9.1 billion rand is for operating budget. Now, you look at where does the chunk of this 19 billion rand goes to? It goes to water plants. We do know now, we are confident about that information. We do know that now the companies from Israel are putting pressure on the city of Cape Town to deliver on their promise, because the leader of the Democratic Alliance, till to date, has not explained to citizens of South Africa what was of his visit to Israel and met Benjamin Netanyahu. And now the revelation of these things that are taking place in the city of Cape Town are speaking to this issue of his visit to Israel. The other issue that I want to raise here, that really it must be brought to the attention of national. Hence, I think the PS of the ANC is correct to say that the city of Cape Town must be put under administration. The violation of the Security Act of South Africa, where one of these rogue officials, that is J.P. Smith, has actually gone beyond his mandate in terms of using the SIU to investigate even some of the DA councillors for their own party political affairs. So they, without even getting a consent from the National Minister of State Security. So these are the very serious issues that we believe as ANC must be brought to the attention of the Democratic Alliance. The last point that I want to raise, at least now we can confirm that IEC has not declared a vacancy in the city of Cape Town. Now, the question is, here is the deputy mayor that has violated the Electoral Act, because it's only the IEC that can declare the vacancy, not any other person, including the president himself. Here is the deputy mayor of the city of Cape Town issuing a statement saying that there is a vacancy in the city of Cape Town. He has assumed a position of being an acting mayor in the city of Cape Town. The Mayco of City of Cape Town has been dissolved with immediate effect. So the only people that are guiding in terms of the political direction in the City of Cape Town, it's himself and the Speaker. So we have a consent. The minister must come to the fore and look at this particular issue, whether it was correct for the Deputy Mayor of Cape Town to make such a statement and also act it. As we speak now, I saw one of the Mayco members yesterday. That person showed me a letter coming from the acting mayor that you are no longer a Mayco member. The last point is the speaker. Both the deputy mayor and the speaker, they acted illegal. The speaker wrote to all of us as councillors that there is a vacancy declared by IEC, and he wrote to the mayor to bring back all the, city properties, because she's no longer now belonging to the city of Cape Town. So what we are saying is the ANC here, you are actually seeing now a situation where this manufactured chaos is reaching a boiling point. They are creating a chaos where people would think that really there is a serious crisis in the city of Cape Town. But on the other hand, they know exactly what they want to achieve. The interference of the party officials in the affairs of government. Because what you see in Cape Town is the state versus the party. The issue of my man giving instructions to the councillors of the city of Cape Town to remove powers from Delil around issues of water plans. Delil had no say in terms of what must happen about the water crisis in Cape Town, because Mosi gave those instructions. So we strongly believe that we have a case here. One, I think the ANC must consider opening up a case as a matter of agent against Musi Maiman, because this fellow has actually not only interfered in the affairs of the city, but he has actually breached each and every piece of legislation in terms of cooperative governance. So those are the issues I thought that we must really flag up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leader of the Opposition in the city, Kholani Sotashe, and I ask the input from our national ANC body through Comrade Zizi Kodwa.
Thank you very much, Comrade Rasool. It is not an exaggeration that the wheels are coming off. The DA wheels are coming off. What we see and what we saw happening to Patricia de Lille, it is, in our view, a Sunday picnic. It's a Sunday picnic. There's a lot that is yet to come. A real implosion of DA is coming. And I think that implosion, among others, signifies the fact that there's been a lot of unhappiness about many people at DA, but their views, a dissenting voice that has been suppressed for a very long time. And that voice is beginning to be impatient. And that voice, over a period of time, that's why I refer to what you saw and what you see now is just a picnic. There's a more that you will see, what I call an implosion, a real implosion. That implosion may have different reasons to it. The first reason being that, firstly, the Democratic Alliance for a longest time, it has created a false impression of itself, of what it is, by parachuting and actually anointing leaders above those that have got a track record in the alliance. And I think, secondly, there is a strong right-wing conservative voice that has been suppressed and displaced because of that parachuting and creating a false impression. It is that falsehood that is coming back to haunt the Democratic Alliance at the moment, because now that right-wing conservative is consolidating. They are fighting for what they term to be theirs. They are fighting back. They want to claim what is theirs. So these are the issues that, unfortunately, you cannot manage, because what they've done over the period of time was to do what is called race relations management. They don't believe in non-racialism, but was to manage racial relations, and it's now imploding. That's why I'm talking about implosion that is coming. And I think we have noted a number of things. Of course, one of them, the issues that are raised by comrades here, including in the municipality. We cannot allow a situation where the municipality, such a crown jewel, such as a city of Cape Town, an important metro with 4 million inhabitants, that is run like an underworld. And if there is issues about that, you would know that in the past, at a national level, the African National Congress, through its government, has even intervened in a number of municipalities that are run by the ANC. Some of them were taken then under administration. Some of them were had to rearrange in terms of what had transpired in those municipalities for one reason and one reason only, because of leadership instability. So it has nothing to do with opposition or not. If you look at the record throughout the country, we had to take under administration a number of municipalities that are run by the ANC, because ours is not about who runs that municipality, it's about services to the people. If a municipality cannot carry and fulfill its mandate to give service to the people because of wrangling, infighting, which is here, you still have gonna see more of that infighting. But importantly to us is, what is the strategic task of the African National Congress in that context? The strategic task of the ANC is to regain trust of the people of Cape Town and the people of Western Cape. And whether what we see now in the Democratic Alliance is one way or another a leapfrog for the African National Congress. The African National Congress has always been ready. We are ready to take over the city. We are ready to take over the province. We have no doubt about it. The power shift we saw in 2006, it was not precipitated on the strength of the opposition. It was precipitated on the weakness, in terms of subjective weakness of the ANC. And we are about to correct, we are correcting that. And I think it's important to note that with all what is happening in the city, we're going to see a lot of implosion of Democratic Alliance. The African National Congress must come in and restore and regain trust of the people and provide leadership. Hence, we have this. I mean, some of the claims and lies that have been peddled are quite shocking by senior people who are in senior positions like acting mayors. We were told yesterday throughout the media that there is a vacancy declared. We can also confirm that there's no such a vacancy declared by IEC. So if a council is run like an underworld like that, it means what we are beginning to see is an implosion that I think people of Cape Town have not been aware that they have been run by an underworld for a very long time. And I think that is beginning, and I think those contradictions themselves will show up. And I think it's important that at this level, we must focus on our ability as African National Congress, regain trust, work hard, be on the ground, but will not allow a city capture to be captured by a group of people who don't have any other interest except their own interest. If it means to engage other parties about creating stability, the African National Congress interest is to bring normalcy and stability to the municipality so that it must deliver on its constitutional mandate to the people of Western Cape, of Cape Town, particularly the poor who have suffered a lot. And I think for them, they are looking forward to a resolution of a stable municipality that can address issues of Skalo, that can address issues of people of Taiwan, can address issues of people of Nkani, Side C, Side B, and everywhere else. These are the people who are looking at this leadership and say, we want hope at the end of the day. And I don't think what is happening in the city at the moment gives hope to these people who are facing difficulties. And that's why I think the call to take any administration, any council under administration, it must be in the interest of enhancing services, particularly to the people and the poor.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kodwa. So in a few seconds to crystallize what the ANC is saying, the ANC is saying that there is an unconstitutional takeover and capture of the city of Cape Town by a factionalized, if not racialized, cabal within the DA. Secondly, we therefore support moves to an interdict to stop this from happening, because it is based on lies, forged signatures of the AG, and false information about a vacancy. Secondly, we are saying that Mmusi Maimane has effectively made the case for administration when he himself put the city under administration and he came in to act as the mayor and the municipal manager through the water crisis. And he's made the case for administration at that point. And what we are seeing is the conflation of party and state and the remote control of deployees within the city and moving them around like checkers pieces on a board. This has led, the internal crisis of the DA has resulted in an external crisis for the people of Cape Town, and therefore it has to be resolved. And the way in which the ANC in the Western Cape is saying it can be resolved is to do what Mmusi Maimane has done, put them under administration, but this time by the national government, because of the impending danger in the budget, as Comrade Faiz had said, because of the evidence of under-expenditure, when people are fighting each other in Scottsdene, in Kanini, in Sikalo and Mitchell's Plain and Vrygrond, if they're fighting each other over services and you don't spend 2.1 billion for services, you don't deserve to be the government of Cape Town. And therefore, I think, ultimately, what the DA has done, besides imploding themselves, they have exploded the myth that where they govern, there is the best run city and the best run province. They have proven that that is certainly not the case, and therefore we are ready to do the hard work of regaining the trust of the people of the Western Cape, but we think that we need to do that with a city that does not endanger their lives fundamentally as it has been done so far. We're open for some questions from your side. I don't know many of you, so please say who you are and then...
Thank you. Rebecca from Daily Maverick. Just two quick questions. Last weekend, the Sunday newspaper reported that when Cyril Ramaphosa came to Cape Town to walk from Khayelitsha to Athlone, he held meetings on that day with both Patricia de Lille and Leonard Max in the hope of persuading them to join the ANC. Do you have any comment on that? And my second question is for Xolani. When you say that the DA publicized restricted info about the city of Cape Town without permission, could you clarify what information you're talking about? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask Faiz, I think, who walked with President Ramaphosa, whether he saw any such meeting take place, and then I'll ask Xolani to respond directly to that question. But let's keep it short and sharp.
Just, we walked actually from Gugulethu to Athlone, and we welcome everybody to walk with the president. We didn't see Patricia de Lille or...
So the meetings were not on the walk,
oh, okay.
They were just on the same day?
No. I mean, the president immediately after the walk went into a cabinet meeting. According to our knowledge, there was no such meeting.
But I do want to not allow an assumption to take place that what is happening is as a result of the president meeting anyone. We are not in the business of enticing anyone to the ANC, because we are in the business of ensuring stable, good governance in the city, and it would not help our cause if there was a walkover from the mayor to the ANC. She has a job, and she must be allowed to do that job.
Well, the restricted information that I'm talking about, you are aware that the city of Cape Town appointed a company to investigate the maladministration and corruption within the city. It is referred to the Bowman report. And this is the information that I'm talking about, that Mmusi was not privy to that information. After numerous calls were made to him by certain journalists to find out how did he get the access to the information, till to date, he has not told the people of Cape Town how he got that information. That was the confidential information only for councillors in the city of Cape Town, nobody else. And that's why I was saying that National must investigate this, because you can't allow thieves to investigate themselves.
Thank you very much. I see a second and a third and a fourth hand.
Mr. Rasool, just adjacent to the game August, I just want to mention the question that Becca asked about the mayor. Surely we know that the mayor brings a lot of credibility, and she's a struggle hero, if I can call it that. Is the ANC not trying to entice her? Because number one, if the elections comes next year and she is part of the ANC, she will do some serious damage to the DA. I mean, no one can dispute that. Not even you yourself sitting there can dispute that. Surely there must be some sort of meetings going on to try and entice Mr. Love to come over. Because if I was in your position, that is exactly what I would have done.
Maybe we are not opportunists.
I'm Rolando from Nestlak Petersburg and Burger. I wanted to hear Mr. Satashi mention the possibility of laying charges or complaints against Mr. Maimane. What kind of charges would you be looking at? Would it be criminal or against him as an LP or MP?
Thank you very much. I saw number.
Monique Motlak from Eyewitness News. Mr. Jacobs said that the ANC would be in support of a secret ballot when council sits to elect a new mayor. Does the ANC have a specific candidate in mind or a suitable candidate to be the next Cape Town mayor?
Yeah. Okay. Is there another hand?
Paul Herman from News 24. I'd just like to ask, in the ANC's mind, who then is currently mayor of the city? Is it all pending the supposed ruling of the urgent court matter on Friday?
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll respond from this side. Do you want to?
Yeah.
It's when in doubt, keep left.
Well, the ANC does not entice. The people join the African National Congress voluntarily because of the supremacy of its ideas and policies. And I think that's why in the articulation of our non-racial policy, we have seen South Africans across, particularly white Democrats who in the past decided to join the ANC based on the articulation of the policy of non-racialism, which is founded both in the struggle and in death. So it won't entice anybody, but of course, she's an elderly. She's got a right to join and make a choice politically, whether she would want to join the African National Congress on the basis of the supremacy of the policies, whether ideologically and politically. She can associate herself with the African National Congress, but we haven't, as the African National Congress, met and discussed with her that she must come to the African. She will make that decision voluntarily. We're in the business as mandated in terms of the strategic objective of the ANC. And if in the pursuit of that objective, she thinks that she's got a role to play, of course, anybody is welcome to join the African National Congress.
But we will not make the mistake of making the case for the DA that she is in conversation with us, because she is not. They want such an admission in order to strengthen their coup d'etat that they are busy with.
Look, as the secretary, I always welcome any membership forms who abide by our constitutional principles. We want to grow the organization.
He's desperate for every 20 rand.
On a lighter note, I think, let me respond to the secret ballot. I think what we are seeing now is that there's a lot of bullying and intimidation tactics that's happening in the city of Cape Town. We want to ensure that there's constitutionality and people vote with their conscience. So I think that's why we support this process, because we want the prevention of bullying around this thing. I think there is a popular mandate in the city of Cape Town, and like we say, we don't want this thing to be factionalized or racialized. We need good governance there, and so the city representatives must have their voice to articulate the views that they have.
Sutash?
Well, the case against Musi, I mean, as I indicated earlier, that he is in possession of confidential information. So the case that we are going to lay against him, it's a management of Information Act, because he has violated that. So the courts must be able to really make a decision on that.
Can I just add to the issue of secret ballot? The secret ballot is not for the election of a mayor. The secret ballot is if the DA is really intent on getting rid of Patricia de Lille, you can't use the DA constitution, use the South African constitution. Secondly, the South African constitution says you've lost confidence in your cadre. now come and test it with the people who elected her in the first place, which are the representatives of the people in council. Bring it there. Now we know that they faced a reverse already. They are afraid of that. That's why they want to find a route to get rid of Patricia de Lille without referring it to council. And key to that is the secret ballot. So it is not that we want to elect a new mayor, because there is a mayor in place. As far as we are concerned, Patricia de Lille is the mayor of Cape Town until the IEC declares otherwise. There is no election for a new mayor, but if you want to get rid of the existing one, come there, put a secret ballot in place, and cast a vote of no confidence, and then we will see, and that's the political work that the ANC will do in defense of good governance, the rule of law, and constitutionality. That must be applied. You can't have a party diktat based on one amendment to your constitution to use us to do your dirty work. We may have our problems with Patricia de Lille, but we will deal with it in time and in constitutional ways. Are there a last round of questions? Okay, Paul, you'll be second because you've had a bite at it.
Yes, Anil, I call Newsroom. Just maybe Comrade Sotash can answer this one. I'm just concerned about service delivery. Is there any tangible evidence at this present moment as to how service delivery, this whole thing that's happening right now, is affecting service delivery on the ground? Thank you.
Paul?
Just one question. We mentioned the DA's recall clause, but in the end, that actually wasn't even the clause they used to remove her. They used some other clause which she supposedly said something on a radio interview that she would be resigning. Does the ANC have any comment on that issue, in that the actual recall clause wasn't even used? It could be a party matter, but just your thoughts on that question.
Sotash?
Yeah, no, look, I'm glad that you call me a comrade. Look, I mean, I was with you in Khayelitsha. I mean, this is a classic example. I was with you in Khayelitsha where 8 people lost their lives. Did you see the city of Cape Town there? They were not there. People were not there. I mean, officials that's supposed to be helping those families that have experienced the fires there. So we had to chip in. As we speak now, the officials in the city of Cape Town are confused who to report to. And the second clear example is the issue of Isikalo. There was a fight between Mitchell's Plain people and Isikalo people. Did you see the city of Cape Town there? They were not there. We had to chip in. The issue of service delivery is being compromised by instability in the city of Cape Town. So you don't have to do all these things in order for you to be placed under administration. Once you do one of it that have a serious negative impact on the service delivery, then national government must chip in and really provide a leadership. I mean, the issue of the refuse removal, we had to instruct the city manager to give instruction to EDs so that the refuse can be removed in the Helderberg area. You go there and then you see the canals. They are filthy, they are blocked. So this issue of the two-tailed city is coming to the fore now. People didn't want to believe, but it is there now. You saw what you saw in Khayelitsha. You saw what you saw in the Helderberg. You saw what you saw in Mitchell's Plain. So this whole issue of instability is really affecting the service delivery. And there is a serious uncertainty within the administration in terms of the staff itself, because the mood is really affected. People are not geared up to bring services to our people. Thanks.
Maybe if I can just also add, there's a service delivery crisis and a governance crisis in the city of Cape Town. And I think we've picked it up. 1.2 billion rand that was not spent, that was meant for infrastructure development, that was meant for overcrowding, that was meant to deal with informal settlement, that was meant for services, have not been spent. That is a crime, because national government has given money allocated to the city. It's not as if the city don't have informal settlements. We have more than 400 informal settlements. What's the plan for that? Now, if a city who's claimed to have good governance would take the people, take the overcrowding of Heideveld or the informal settlements of our townships, if they would have implemented the plan, that 2.1 billion has been spent. But they're not focusing on dealing with the service problems. They're focusing on the internal factional politics that they have. They're not dealing with the governance that we have. So we're seeing our communities despair, and what you had, the sporadic incidents of service delivery protests, whether it's at Vrygrond, whether it's at Carlo, whether it's in Scottsdene, whether it's in Guguletu, people are angry, people are frustrated, and there's a sense of despair and hopelessness because there's no political leadership. There's no administrative leadership, there's no plans. Instead, they have the audacity to exacerbate the tariffs, they increase the tariffs. So they collect more and more money from the poor, predominantly poor, but there's no plan to deal with the service delivery because of this factional fighting. So I think it's very clear everywhere we go, we as the ANC have to do firefighting. We're not in government, we're effective opposition. The water mismanagement is a classical example. They knew they had to have water plans for a long time. Instead of dealing with the issues up front, they're looking at creating an economic benefit for themselves through the desalination plant. There was no plan. And now again, because of their ineptitude, we as the people of Cape Town have to double. We have to pay more now because of our saving and because of their incompetence.
Just in addition on what Comrade Faiz has said, I mean, now our financial year ends next month on the 30th of June. As we speak now, on top of 175 million rand that has been brought back to Treasury, and Treasury had to reallocate those funds to performing municipalities on urban settlement development grant, there is an available 780 million rands that must be spent between now and the 30th of June. Tell me, if you couldn't spend that 780 million rand in the past 9 months, how on earth you are going to spend it within a few weeks? So this is a crisis that you are having in the city of Cape Town, and there is a trend of underspending on capital projects. And AG also has raised that particular concern with the city of Cape Town.
On the clauses, I think that the DA is clutching at straws. They are looking for anything that will solve the internal problem. They created the Delil clause. They then realized maybe if we use the Delil clause, we must go through the council. We can't afford that because we lost the vote the last time. If we use ordinary disciplinary actions, then maybe the litany of allegations we make in a public disciplinary will implode the idea that we are the best governed city and will expose us as corrupt and ineffective. So let's close the DC because we can't afford that. And so now they've used another clause that she supposedly said something on radio. She effectively self-resigned, and now all we need to do is to get her out of the office. All they need at this moment is not any clause in their constitution. They need Santa Claus to deliver peace for them in their municipalities. That really is the only salvation for the DA at this moment. But I want to give the final word to Zizi Kodwa, and then I think we can all get on and not give you too much editing.
I think we shouldn't allow a situation where we compromise service delivery, good governance, because there's a party that is mutilating itself somewhere. It's mutilating itself unprovoked into pieces. And I think we shouldn't allow that. The African National Congress has got a responsibility given by the people of this country since 1994 to make sure that it governs with loyalty, with trust. And I think whatever would have happened in the past, we should, the African National Congress, remain that hope to the millions of people of Cape Town, to the millions of people of Western Cape. And therefore, let's allow DA to mutilate itself outside, not use our government, the city itself, to make sure that it damages the prospects of poor people who are looking up to a democratically elected local government and provincial and national government for their better future. And I think for today, it's a lesson, particularly for DA, that the false impression they've created all along for the longest time about themselves is coming back to haunt them. The very strong conservative right wing, it is strongly consolidating against what they've been displaced for a very long time. And I think they are fighting for what I said earlier. The right-wing conservative, they are fighting what is called theirs. because they've been displaced for a very long time by imposition of leaders above those, according to them, who do not deserve to be leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, let's just go back. Yonela, you can circulate.
Well, if you have just tuned in, that is the wrap-up of the ANC briefing as it responds to the DA's cessation of Patricia de Lille's membership from the party, as well as now issues around the city of Cape Town, the governance and her position as mayor in the city. We will be giving you more updates on this. Let's take a short break here on SABC Newsroom.
We give you a front row seat to all the local and international entertainment news on Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
A meteorite hit the Earth 2 million years ago, creating an enormous impact of crater, about 10 kilometers in diameter, near Vredefort in the Free State. 100 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg, now known as the Vredefort Dome, a South African World Heritage Site. The meteorite is said to have been larger than Table Mountain and caused a 1,000 megaton blast of energy. The impact would have heated about 70 cubic kilometers of rock and have increased the Earth's oxygen levels to a degree that made the development of multicellular life possible. The world has about 130 crater structures of possible impact origin. The Vredefort Dome is the largest in the world, followed by Sudbury Crater in Canada and the Chicxulub Crater in Mexico. The Orange River is South Africa's major river. It rises in the Drakensberg in Lesotho, known as the Senqu River. It flows through Free State via Van der Kloot Dam, Eastern Cape into Gariep Dam, Northern Cape and Richterveld Transfrontier Park, which is part of Namibia. Orange River is 2,090 kilometers long. It finally flows into the Atlantic Ocean at Alexander Bay.
Peter Dirk is. Thank you for joining us, Peter. What is Peter's views on the politics of the country?
Well, from the point of view of a citizen of a democracy, I sat on that Monday waiting for something to happen and nothing happened. I sat on Tuesday and I thought he is going to go today and he didn't go that day. And then on Wednesday morning he was going to be giving a press conference at 10 o'clock in the morning and he didn't do that. So I thought, Jacob Zuma, get the hell out of here, where are you going? And then just before midnight, he resigned, you know, just before the clock struck 12 and his limousine turned into a pumpkin. And I suddenly thought, okay, here we go. The page has been turned. What now? Of course, the next day there was Cyril Ramaphosa sworn in, and then the Friday night he gave his SONA address to the nation, which was an extremely professional leadership address. And he has been really, truly doing some wonderful things. I mean, jogging with people in Guguletu and then being, I don't know, the whole type of the man is so different from what we've had in the last 8 years. And I'm very relieved as a citizen of our democracy that we've had a very good day for our democracy. I think it proves that we are a very healthy democracy.
Do you think 2018 is going to be a positive year for every South African?
Cyril Ramaphosa, as president, has to clean the cat sandbox in Luthuli House because the fat cats have used it and left all their Saxon World diarrhea behind. So lots has to be done. We as citizens have to do our homework. We've got to find out where the good politicians are. There are good politicians in each party, and support them and make them know that we support them. And the bad ones must go to jail. It's as simple as that. There's no second chance anymore. We are on that road. So we've left the gravel road and we're back on the tarred road. So that's a good sign. And the potholes are getting less and less and less, which is a better sign.
This year marks Nelson Mandela's centenary. Madiba would have been 100 years old in July.
They, Evita and Madiba, met at an ANC rally just before the election. I was asked to bring Evita there because they wanted to entertain the people. I think there were about 40,000 people from the Cape Flats at this huge rally. And they all seemed to know Evita. It was just wonderful because she arrived in her voortrekker rok, her orange, white and blue rok. And then when it was over, I thought, well, now I can get changed back into me because I also want to meet Nelson Mandela. And Alan Busak, who was organizing it, this is before we knew that he was a naughty man. And he said, no, Madiba wants to meet Evita. So there was a situation where I was in my dress, sitting in the front row on the stage, and Nelson Mandela came onto the stage and he suddenly said, "Oh, Evita, you look so beautiful," and hugged, and we had this wonderful friendship. He would phone me and he would say, "Oh, Peter, bring Evita. I want her, I need her." At all these wonderful things he organized to raise money for AIDS children and to have these extraordinary democratic gatherings of very famous people, and Evita had a 50 minutes of fame. And I remember about the 20th time that it happened, and there was just a moment that he was holding her hand. And I just said to him, "President Mandela, every time you see me, I'm dressed as Evita." He said, "Don't worry, Peter, I know you're inside."
The man behind the alter ego, Evita Bezuidenhout, we get to know Peter Dirk Ace. Now, one of their shows is called The Echo of Noise. Can you tell us more about that show?
I only thought I'd do it for one night at the National Arts Festival 2 years ago, and it was such an enormous success. People said, "We've never heard this, we've never seen this. This is without you and your characters and the wigs and the eyelashes and the politicians, and it's just telling the story." And I've just been really enjoying sharing this story with so many people who have actually shared their experiences with me as well, because we all share parents, we all share growing up and having dreams and having sadness and being frightened and being happy. So that's what it is. It is this extraordinary experience.
And then just going back to the comparison between Evita and Peter Dirk Ace, has it been challenging over the years to kind of separate the two characters?
Do you know, I don't separate the two characters because there's only one character, and that is Evita. She's a character I perform. I spend about 2% of my time on her, mainly staying on a diet. You know, and just seeing that she looks good. I mean, that's the whole thing. She's not a drag character at all. She is a person with a three-dimensional history and opinions, and she's been with people for 40 years. So people have grown up with her. So that's a great discipline for me. But I certainly don't get mixed up. I mean, she says things that I wouldn't say, frankly, that I couldn't say, and sometimes need to be said. So I'm glad I have that mouthpiece to be able to actually, as a member of the ANC, Evita can actually say things that I, outside, would be seen to be unfair and a little bit possibly racist, which I never want to be, because that's something I've been fighting all my life. So I have great respect for Mrs. Bezuidenhout, and I'm very pleased I never have to meet her face to face.
The ANC in Cape Town says it will write to national government and the Department of Cooperative Governance to place the city of Cape Town under administration following Patricia de Lille's axing. Northwest Premier Supra Mumupelo has abandoned his resignation and says it's now up to the Provincial Executive Committee in the province to decide his fate. The bus strike is dragging on into its fourth week, but a new offer has brought the parties closer to a settlement.
And later in sport, the Springbok Sevens team will be without key forwards Kyle Brown and Tim Magaba when they reassemble in Stellenbosch on Monday for the final two tournaments of the World Rugby 7 Series.
Very good morning to you and welcome to SABC's Newsroom. I'm Shante Yankees. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. A lot coming up with regards to the statement that has been released by Northwest Premier. We'll be giving you more updates on that and other discussions throughout the course of the hour. I'm not alone. Ben and Kirtley is standing by with all your sporting highlights this hour. A very good morning to you, Valen. Very happy Wednesday. Last hour sporting-wise?
Well, lots to look forward to when it comes to our sports bulletin. Chante, good morning to you and good morning to our viewers. I'll be bringing you a full look at what's happening in your sports world at 1:45 the top of the hour. Back to you, Chante, for your news.
In the top story at 11 o'clock, the ANC in the Western Cape says the decision by the DA to revoke de Lille's membership has plunged one of the country's biggest metros into crisis. Addressing the media this morning, the party says Democratic Alliance used unconstitutional means to oust Patricia de Lille as mayor, and this must be investigated immediately.
Democratic Alliance baffling attempt to axe Patricia de Lille as mayor of the city of Cape Town has plunged one of the country's biggest metros into an ever deeper crisis, with some 4 million residents already reeling from the DA's catastrophic mismanagement of the drought. Cape Town's local economy has taken a severe knock as the result of the water restrictions imposed by the DA administration, placing thousands of jobs at risk. Residents who have been doing their best to save water are being punished for their efforts and will now, according to the city's budget and by the DA's administration's own admission, will now have to pay 55% more for domestic water consumption. Let's say from the outset, it is entirely disingenuous for the DA to claim that Patricia de Lille is solely responsible for the city's woes. This washing of hands is a mind-boggling failure to take responsibility and account for the decisions taken by the DA caucus. The length to which the DA has gone to get rid of Mayor Patricia de Lille has shown up the party for what it really is: a racist, elitist party which aims to protect white privilege at the expense of African, colored, and Indian communities. The DA pretends to have the interests of all its members at heart, but is clearly using blacks, and when we say black, we broadly include African, colored, and Indians, to entrench colonial and apartheid privilege. Even DA leader Musi Manimani must now be doubting the action he has taken against de Lille, following the attacks that he has to endure after saying on Freedom Day that South Africans must confront white privilege and black poverty. The ANC commends Maimani for telling the truth, but he must also explain why he has not acted in equal measure against the Western Cape Premier, Helen Zille, who continues to insult black South Africans by justifying colonialism. The DA has once again shown its total disregard for the people of Cape Town, with its anti-democratic, racist actions in the city. The DA's perpetual state of crisis is a major cause of governance failure in the city of Cape Town. Racism of the white bosses in the DA and the collusion of foreign business interests on various lucrative contracts, including the desalination contracts, is tearing the DA apart. DA members such as de Lille are being sacrificed at the altar for the DA to build a financial fund to fight the ANC. The evident result of this crisis is that the City of Cape Town's draft budget presented in March was rejected by some DA members, trapping the critical functions of the city into its internal DA party political battles. More than 39,000 people also have rejected the city's budget, proposed budget. This on top of the failures of the DA-run city to spend its budget. I think we've all known that there's under-expenditure in the human settlement budget, while the people of Cape Town suffer homelessness, crime, water shortages, and failures of all other critical services, has caused a situation where communities find themselves at each other's throats. In Mitchell's Plain and Isiqalo, for example. The proposed 55% increase in water tariffs, while still not delivering the water to the people, shows the callous and self-interest character of the DA. The ANC holds no brief for Patricia de Lille, but good governance and constitutional order is being undermined by the DA.
Meanwhile, the ANC NEC member Zizi Kodwa says that the Patricia de Lille saga represents many unhappy and suppressed voices within the Democratic Alliance.
The DA wheels are coming off. What we see and what we saw happening to Patricia de Lille, it is, in our view, a Sunday picnic. It's a Sunday picnic. There's a lot that is yet to come. A real implosion of DA is coming. And I think that implosion, among others, signifies the fact that there's been a lot of unhappiness about many people at DA, but their views, a dissenting voice that has been suppressed for a very long time. And that voice is beginning to be impatient. And that voice, over a period of time, that's why I refer to what you saw and what you see now is just a picnic. There's a more that you'll see, what I call an implosion, a real implosion. That implosion may have different reasons to it. The first reason being that, firstly, the Democratic Alliance, for a longest time, it has created a false impression of itself, of what it is, by parachuting and actually anointing leaders above those that have got a track record in the alliance. And I think, secondly, there is a strong right-wing conservative voice that has been suppressed and displaced because of that parachuting and creating a false impression. It is that falsehood that is coming back to haunt the Democratic Alliance at the moment, because now that right-wing conservative is consolidating. They are fighting for what they term to be theirs. They are fighting back. They want to claim what is theirs. So these are the issues that, unfortunately, you cannot manage, because what they've done over the period of time was to do what is called race relations management. They don't believe in non-racialism, but was to manage race relations, and it's now imploding. That's why I'm talking about implosion that is coming. And I think we have noted a number of things. Of course, one of them, the issues that are raised by comrades here, including in the municipality. We cannot allow a situation where the municipality, such a crown jewel, such as the city of Cape Town, an important metro with 4 million inhabitants, that is run like an underworld. And if there is issues about that, you would know that in the past, at a national level, the African National Congress, through its government, has even intervened in a number of municipalities that are run by the ANC. Some of them were taken then under administration. Some of them were had to rearrange in terms of what had transpired in those municipalities for one reason and one reason only, because of leadership instability. So it has nothing to do with opposition or not. If you look at a record throughout the country, we had to take under administration a number of municipalities that are run by the ANC, because ours is not about who runs that municipality, it's about service to the people.
Well, Northwest Premier Supra Mamopilo has abandoned his resignation and now says it's up to the Provincial Executive Committee in the province to decide his fate. Yesterday, Mamopilo announced his intention to resign and was supposed to hold a media briefing this morning to officially announce his resignation. While speaking in Mahikeng, surrounded by supporters and the media following his meeting with the PEC, he says he did not consult the PEC before announcing his intentions.
Well, firstly, you must understand that there's been discussions internally. in the organization, and we must respect those discussions, and we must give those discussions space and time to unfold, because we are handling a delicate situation. Now, you would know that yesterday the Premier had announced that he will be submitting his resignation today. But my structure then said I must wait a bit because I didn't consult with the Provincial Executive Committee. So I'm here now that's why Expo is postponed. I'm here now to listen to what the PC is going to say, because they are the ones who I account to. Not only myself, but all of us who are public representatives. So let's wait and see what the Provincial Executive Committee said, because we don't control ourselves in the organization. So I will expect that all of us will be patient and wait for the discussions of the Provincial Executive Committee. But where we are sitting, accountability to the structure is quite central. We can't just defy structures and so on. In future, I don't know, maybe in the near future, I will very much in detail explain to the leadership of the ANC how this political agenda was planned, concocted, its genesis, and how it found expression in the motion of no confidence by the EFF, and how where we are now, the EFF has gone out of the picture. And suddenly now everything is taken over by your alliance, and so on and so on. But that time will come. I will not get into those issues at this particular stage. We need to exercise some, but I'm not going to keep quiet when that time comes, because if I don't give my own understanding of this political machinations, I will also be very dishonest to the African National Congress. But that time is not now. It's not now. That time will come later. But I can tell you now that definitely I will tell a bit of a story about this particular political narrative.
In simpler terms, you maintain that this was a political conspiracy?
Oh, it will continue to be like that. There can't be anything else about it. So, I mean, it's a simple equation, right? The ANC has a majority in the legislature, 23 seats. The opposition combined is 10 seats. Why should there be a panic that any one of us can be removed in parliament, in the legislature? Why? So something is not right in the ANC, but it's finding expression in the EFF. So we'll have to discuss whether there are some underground political relations between some members of the legislature who are ANC and the EFF. Now, the EFF has said so publicly that they have members of the ANC who are supporting them. The question will be why the leadership of the ANC is not interested in that. Why is it not an issue? Right? Why is it not being taken very serious, that particular matter? But the other matter the ANC will have to discuss very seriously is why do we not unpack the phenomenon of violence when people can resort to violence and so on? Why do we not sit down as the ANC and say, what does this violence, is it spontaneous? Is there a possibility that it's sponsored? Is there a possibility that it's an organized violence? Because you know what it will mean? It will mean that If we don't want you as a leader, we can simply organize violence.
No supra, no election.
Right? Can
No
simply
supra,
organize
no
violence.
elections.
And because of violence, then we will say the situation is untenable. But let's wait for the PC to...
People are saying no supra, no elections.
We must ask them.
In an exclusive interview with SABC News last night, Northwest Premier Supra Mahmupelo told us that from today he would no longer be in charge of the mineral-rich province. Well, this is how the conversation between the Northwest Premier and my colleague Aldrin Sampe went.
By tomorrow, midday, Supra over again, Ramoeleti Mahumapelo will be the former premier of the Northwest. That's what I'm saying. We are beyond that. We are living beyond what people are still perceiving, what people are speculating. That's why I'm saying what we need to follow is just the administrative processes which are prescribed in the Constitution, because I have to communicate with the executive tomorrow, the top management, and the Speaker of the legislature. So where I'm sitting, my mind, my soul, and everything else is beyond those speculations. I'm in another world already.
Well, earlier, our reporter Zetla Englehi spoke to ANC provincial member on the confusion regarding Mahmupelo's position as premier.
The premier reiterated, he said it clearly, loudly, to say he's going to meet with the provincial executive committee. You must remember, the ANC is the center. Even the premier is the deployee of the African National Congress. So therefore, he must come to the PEC, tell the PEC what exactly is happening. Because the decision for him to resign, the PEC does not understand it. The PEC need to be told, need to be taken through processes as to understand what is really the fundamental issue that compels the premier to resign. Because for us as the PEC, we have long said it. We support him. He came with fundamental economic radical program. So we don't see any reason for him to resign. So therefore, we are going to meet from 9 o'clock. The PEC is going to meet. Is going to outline all the issues. We are going to understand as to real what is the fundamental issue as to why the premier is resigning. After then, it will then be the decision of the structure, should it be, because like I've said to you, the ANC is the center.
Mr. Morueng, very radical stances that have been said here, that no supra, no elections, that there will be no going forward for the ANC in the province if he is to resign. Do you align yourself with those sentiments? Look,
like the chair have also captured it. Here they are. You can interview them and understand to them as to what does that slogan mean. But as the PEC, like we have said, we're going to proceed with our meeting. But no supra, no election. They are here behind me. You can ask them and understand what do they mean by that.
And at this juncture, what do we expect to happen? Because it seemed yesterday when he gave us an exclusive, as the SAB said, he was prepared to leave. He said today he would be known as the former Premier of the Northwest.
Even if that is the case, the Provincial Executive Committee is the center. It is the one that has deployed Comrade Supra. So it is called Comrade Supra. It is here to meet with Comrade Supra, understand the nitty-gritties of this matter.
As the PEC, you still align yourself with Supra Mahumapelo, irrespective of the allegations that have been leveled against him?
Comrade Supra, we have elected him in 2014. He's one of our own. We have confidence in him. He's a radical, progressive leader the ANC has ever produced in this province. So we support him 100%. That is our stance as the Provincial Executive Committee meeting. Those allegations levels against him must be dismissed, because none of them has been proved in the court of law. Why can't people exercise patience and wait for the court of law to come with the outcomes as to whether he's guilty of corruption or not? That is the stance of the Provincial Executive Committee.
This current stalemate is going to create a very difficult situation for the successor should the Premier leave.
Look, that I can't tell. I'm not in a position to tell that whether the successor will have a difficulty in assuming power or not. But like I've said, our stance as the PEC is to meet with Comrade Supra, as the ANC is the center, and understand what is really happening as the African National Congress in the province.
Well, the bus strike is dragging on into its fourth week, but a new offer has brought the parties closer to a settlement. The unions have agreed to demand 9% increases for bus drivers in the first year and 8% in the second year, backdated to the 1st of April. Well, this brings them closer to the new offer of 8.75% for the first year and 8.25% for the second year, which the employees put on, or rather the employers had put on the table at the weekend. Well, the strike has led to long queues at taxi ranks and extended travelling periods for hundreds of thousands of commuters. Some other news, Advocate Nel says that he will interact with the Department of Mineral Resources to enable him to institute private prosecution against mines which are violating rights of communities. Well, the former state prosecutor is representing the mining communities against the Ivan Plat's Platreef Resources mine in Bokopane in Limpopo. Well, residents are complaining about the relocation of their graves and their 26% shares at the mine. Nell says several mining communities have requested him to intervene in their complaints against the mines. Well, the latest findings by the World Economic Forum has shown that South Africa has the worst labour-employee relations in the world, ranking 137 out of 137 countries. Well, the findings are backed by the support of trade unions. The efficiency of a country's labour market is directly linked to GDP, long-term growth, overall prosperity and competitiveness on a global scale. An audio recording of controversial former Deputy Higher Education Minister Mduduzi Manana allegedly offering to pay 100,000 rand to his domestic worker Christine Wiru to drop the assault charges against him has emerged. Manana allegedly pushed Wiru down the stairs of his Fourways home after she reportedly opened the gate for the wrong person. In the audio, Manana can be heard trying to convince the family to approach the station commander and drop the charges. Manana has been on the news for all the wrong reasons after he was charged and convicted for assaulting a woman at a restaurant in Fourways. He was ordered to undergo anger management programs.
No. Yes. Yes.
Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say at least 17 people have died following a new outbreak of Ebola. A group of Nigerian migrants have filed a lawsuit against Italy for violating their human rights. The United Nations Secretary General has expressed his concern at the United States' decision to withdraw from what is known as the Iran nuclear deal. The lead story with some African news this half hour. 17 people have died following a new outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is the DRC's 9th known outbreak of Ebola since 1976. The worst ever Ebola outbreak started in December of 2013 in southern Guinea before spreading to two neighboring West African countries, Liberia and Sierra Leone. According to estimates by the World Health Organization, that outbreak killed more than 11,300 people. In Kenya, people known as dwarfs or little people will meet in the United States this July for their annual conference. The meeting brings together people with dwarfism to talk about issues facing them. It will culminate in a sports tournament. In preparation for the meeting, Kenya's Lion Stars football and badminton teams are in the camp in Nairobi practicing for their tournaments. They will use the games to fight the stigma attached to dwarfism.
On a cold Tuesday morning, a football team warms up at the Nairobi City Stadium. But this is not your usual football team. These are the Lion Stars, a team made up of the country's short stature society, also known as the little people in some countries.
It's a football team that desire to represent our country in the Dwarf Athletic Association of America Games. From goalkeeping, striking to proper ball control, nothing is being left to chance.
Timu yangu sasa nashukuru.
We have adequately prepared ourselves. I have a strong team that I have put together and I know we will win. It's been a long road to get here.
We started by passing. You're telling somebody, can you pass the ball to me? Then he's looking at you like that. Pass the ball to me. You're telling him, put the ball down, stretch your foot and then pass the ball. Then tell him, pass the ball. Just pick the ball with his own hands and bring it to him. So it was very challenging. And if it wasn't for us, who at least knew something concerning football, coach would have a very hard time.
It is not easy being the so-called little people in a country like Kenya. They miss opportunities at education or even just association. And so they have come together to form the Short Stature Association of Kenya, whereby they are using sport to fight discrimination.
It's creating awareness for people to understand, yes, these people, yes, it's only that they are short, but they can do greater things.
So it can fight stigma?
It have really fought stigma. It have really fought discrimination. It have created that awareness to the people, to the government, and even to the people in the community.
But if what we have witnessed at the practice session is anything to go by, then more needs to be done to get people to change their attitudes against members of short stature. The team trains on a muddy, waterlogged patch of the field, only taking the main pitch when the Premier League teams are done with their practice, partly because the bigger teams do not take them seriously, and secondly, money has been difficult to come by.
All those parastatals, we have sent over our proposal, and we are believing that through those proposals, they will support us.
Unlike the main league, a little people's soccer match is a little different to cater for the needs of the players.
One thing is the height. You can see our height. Secondly, the ball that we normally use, it's not like this one. Ours is size 4. Even the posts of the goalkeeper, they are smaller, and the height is smaller. So everything of ours is different than the normal football.
These players have no time to feel sorry for themselves or their stature. 25-year-old Jeremiah Maringa is a testament to that.
We people, we are short, but we are tall in our minds, and we are capable of doing everything they can think of.
As the day of the tournament draws near, the team is worried that it may not have met its deadline to raise funds needed to travel to the US, even as it awaits word from the country's sports ministry. Their eyes are, however, focused on the prize.
The team that will be going to represent us in America, we are promising we are coming back with medals.
Their dream, they say, is not too high to reach. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
A group of Nigerian migrants who survived a deadly sea crossing last year have filed a lawsuit against Italy for violating their human rights by supporting the Libyan Coast Guard's efforts to turn back boats to North Africa. Well, some 17 migrants, supported by 4 lawyers, filed the lawsuit to the European Court of Justice last week.
The lawsuit accuses Italy of violating several articles of the European Convention on Human Rights, including that people not be subjected to torture, held in slavery, or their lives put in danger, all of which the United Nations rights groups and news reports say migrants face in Libya. The lengthy process can take up to 3 years, but should the migrants win, they can be awarded damages and Italy would be forced to abandon its policy of pullback. There is an increasingly tense standoff between humanitarian groups seeking to save lives on the open seas and authorities in Italy, with the backing of the European Union trying to stop people from making the dangerous crossing in the first place. Crossings have fallen dramatically since Italy and Libya signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at stemming the migrant flow in February last year. Migrant arrivals in Italy from Libya fell more than 80% to 6,700 during the first 5 months of the year, compared with the same period a year ago.
EFF leader Julius Malema says if the Pan-African Parliament continues with its poor financial management and disregard for benefits for South Africans, he will spearhead an interdict to suspend its funding from South Africa. Of this after some members of the Finance Committee revealed that the programme budget of the Parliament has gone down from 20 million rand in 2016 to 5 million rand in 2017 as some donors lose faith in the institution.
It is the second day of the 6th session of the 4th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament, and it's down to business already, the business of finance, the crux of the success of the Pan-African Parliament. Old members of this Parliament were concerned in the past that lack of accountability and poor financial management would probably lead to donors withdrawing their funding.
The program budget has been cut. I mean, for example, between 2017 and 18, a program budget of about 20 million is now 6 million. Almost above 13 million, 40 million is gone. Even if I were the donors or the financiers, I would do the same. Because if you don't want to properly account for it, you don't allow the audit report to be generated and discussed and what have you, obviously people will begin to hold back.
There has been challenges in the Pan-African Parliament of accountability. You would know that in the recent past there has been issues around the expenditures that are very difficult to explain in terms of where the money has gone. So we feel very strongly that negatively affects the image of the Pan-African Parliament.
And walk-in EFF leader Julius Malema, he is one of 4 new MPs from South Africa, and he pledges change.
We put a lot of money as South Africa in this institution. A lot of employees here do not even come from our country. A lot of employees who come from our country do not have the same benefits as other employees from other countries. Yet South Africa spends a lot of money on this institution. So we are here to ensure that that money is used for intended purpose. If there's anyone who doesn't want to account for the monies that get to be used, we'll interdict our own parliament from giving them money until they've accounted for the monies that they've received, particularly from us.
Malema says he now knows that the Pan-African Parliament has 2 distinct committees regarding finance. It is this finance committee as well as the audit committee. He says he is yet to decide which one he should be a member of to effect the most change. Ntakwana Ngatane, SABC News, Midrand.
The United Nations Secretary General has expressed his concern at the United States' decision to withdraw from what is known as the Iran nuclear deal. In a statement shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump announced Washington's withdrawal last night, the UN chief called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action a major achievement in nuclear non-proliferation and diplomacy. In his wide-anticipated announcement, Trump called the deal defective to its core, despite the position of other parties to the agreement and the UN arguing that Iran had been in full compliance. SABC's Sharon Bryce-Peace reports.
Trump called Iran a leading state sponsor of terrorism while rubbishing one of the major foreign policy accomplishments of his predecessor, former President Barack Obama.
After these consultations, it is clear to me that we cannot prevent an Iranian nuclear bomb under the decaying and rotten structure of the current agreement. The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons.
At the conclusion of his remarks, he immediately signed a memorandum to begin reinstating U.S. nuclear sanctions on Iran.
The analysis of the landmark 2015 JCPOA, which included the European Union, Russia and China, is that Iran had been in full compliance with its obligations, while the EU allies, in the main France and Germany, had urged the United States to remain party to the agreement. But it's issues like sunset clauses to some of the limits placed on Iran and her growing influence in the region, including their separate ballistic missile program, that is principally responsible for this decision.
The UN reaction came moments after President Trump spoke.
The Secretary General is deeply concerned by today's announcement that the United States will be withdrawing from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action and will begin reinstating U.S. sanctions. The Secretary General has consistently reiterated that the JCPOA represents a major achievement in nuclear nonproliferation and diplomacy. It has also contributed to regional and international peace and security.
In his reaction, Iran's president indicated that they would continue to honor their obligations, while expressing joy that President Trump, whom he called a nuisance, had left the agreement. Sherwin Briceby's SABC News, New York.
Well, a group of pro-Northwest Premier Supra Mahumopelo's supporters accused the ANC National Working Committee of forcing him to step down. The supporters, who are also members of the ANC Provincial Executive Council, sang songs of praise and support for the embattled leader as he arrived at the provincial offices of the party this morning in Mahikeng. We also have Sophie Mokwena in studio to talk about these developments. But first, though, we'll be crossing to our reporter, Sentle. Very good morning to Sentle. We do understand that there was some sort of storming in of a meeting. Just give us an update and developments from the ground.
Good morning to you too. Right now, pandemonium just broke out just a few seconds ago as his supporters tried to barge into the embassy hall to have a word with him, saying to him that they will not allow him to step down as their rightful leader. You can see that the situation has cleared a bit around me. Police are here, but most of the crowd has actually went right around the building to try and force their way into the embassy hall. But as I mentioned, a high police contingent has been sent here to at least try to secure the situation as far as possible. You'll understand that last night the Premier had announced in our exclusive interview with the SABC that he would be resigning and would be referred to on this very day, Wednesday, as the former Premier of the Northwest. There was meant to be a press briefing at about 10 o'clock this morning where the Premier would then have formally say that he will be resigning. But then that took a very unexpected U-turn where the Premier then indefinitely postponed the said press briefing we had anticipated and said that he had been told by the PEC that he would need to consult with them before any decision would be taken about his future as the Premier. And we have seen as the Premier arrived here, he was flanked by scores of his supporters wearing ANC T-shirts, chanting words about not willing to see him go and not willing to see elections continue in 2019 without him as the leader of the ANC. It is still expected to see that there might be more tensions as the situation simmers. But for more, we will keep you updated for that. Back to you guys in studio.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Sentling Lehi for SABC News. Just taking us through pandemonium that seems to have broken out at that PEC meeting this morning. And of course, Sophie, it is something that we could have anticipated as we crossed throughout the course of the morning, seeing the contingent of ANC supporters coming out in support of Supra. And now, of course, a change of events. Just this morning, we were expecting that resignation, and now he has confirmed that he will not be resigning as of yet.
Well, indeed, it shows that there is serious tension in that province. And I think for the PEC, they should have anticipated this, and I think the security should have been on standby, because it was not going to be an easy task. But also, it is quite surprising, because the very same people who are talking about following the process and respect for rule of law, they are not doing the same in this case, because the meeting is currently underway. They are supposed to give the PEC a chance to engage in the talks and then come out and speak to the branches, and the branches perhaps can then express their position after the interaction with the Premier. But it looks like they have done what they have done, trying to push to get into the hall where currently you have the PEC and the Premier discussing this important matter. And you know very well that the PEC meetings, unless it's an extended PEC meeting, you can't just barge in there. The same with the NEC meetings. You can't just come in the NEC meeting unless you are invited or it's an extended NEC meetings. It speaks to the discipline in that province.
Let's just talk about how important it is for him to be recalled from the party and not necessarily him resigning in his own capacity.
Well, when you are recalled, I mean, it's a negative way of leaving office. When you resign, it's a more dignified way of leaving office. But if he really believes in the unity and cohesion of the ANC, he has to take his supporters on board. He has to explain that he is resigning, and they have to respect his position. If you have disciplined members around him, they will understand that. I made an example of what transpired when the president was recalled in 2008. I made an example of what happened when the president was recalled, was requested to step down this year. You know, both leaders demonstrated leadership. They called on their supporters to exercise restraint, and they also called on their supporters to respect the position of the leadership and the NEC. In this case, I expect Supra Mahumapelo as a leader, a seasoned leader, who was there when the president was recalled in 2008. He was part of the NEC, and then when it happened again this year, he was part of the NEC. I expect him to indicate to his supporters that they have to respect the leadership, but you can't guarantee.
You know, in terms of how this could plan out, specifically with regards to the support that the ANC members have for the Premier, with regards to his position in the ANC and what this could mean for elections next year?
Well, he will continue to be the provincial chairperson until the conference in February next year, or unless the NEC takes a decision to disband the province, you'll have an interim structure. That interim structure will take the province to 2019 elections. If he's still the Premier, he's still the chairperson. If he retains his position in February next year, obviously he will assist in ensuring that ANC is able to campaign. But the question is, will the NEC continue with this current PEC, or a recommendation will be made to disband the current PEC? Because you can see now the tension is affecting the party negatively. And the NEC is the highest decision-making body between conferences. It can take a decision to disband the province so that you have an interim structure that can prepare the province to go to the provincial conference next year, which is scheduled for February, and therefore elect a new leadership. That leadership is the very same leadership that will present 3 names should the ANC win elections in that province in 2019, people who are likely to be candidates for premiership.
Definitely. Thank you very much for joining us in studio and just unpacking some of the issues surrounding the resignation or the pause thereof of Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo, as well as he has now just confirmed that it has been put on hold, is awaiting consultation with PEC members in the ANC. And we've also just heard from our reporter on the ground that some members have actually tried to barge into that meeting. There is currently a police and security contingent on the ground. We will be giving you more updates on that. For now, though, let's take a short break. When we come back, all your sporting highlights.
Shervin Bryceby's SABC News, New York.
Paul Barber, SABC News, London.
Tebo Mokobo, SABC Ufa go tswa mo Russia.
Neha Punya, SABC News, Saharanpur in Uttar Pradesh in India.
Other than that, I've enjoyed every single moment of it.
Takwana Ngatani, SABC News, Soweto, Johannesburg.
Very good morning to you. Let's have a look at some of your sporting highlights. We'll start with some rugby this morning. The Lions have announced that star hooker Malcolm Marx will be sidelined for at least 6 weeks due to a leg injury. Marx was injured at last weekend's Super Rugby match against the Hurricanes in Wellington. The 2017 South African Player of the Year award winner flew back to South Africa and underwent a scan in Johannesburg yesterday, which revealed a high-grade hamstring tendon tear that will not require surgery but weeks of rest. Well, this puts his participation for the Springboks' upcoming test against Wales and England, which takes place in June, in serious doubt. The same with rugby. The Springbok Sevens team will be without key forwards Kyle Brown and Tim Agaba when they reassemble in Stellenbosch on Monday for the final 2 tournaments of the World Rugby Sevens series. Brown, their most experienced squad member, will undergo knee surgery next Tuesday to repair ligament damage sustained in Singapore last month. Agaba's season was also cut short due to a bicep injury. Well, the Blitzboks are currently second on the HSBC World Rugby Sevens series log after 8 tournaments. They trail Fiji by 3 points and will all have to play as they aim to defend their series title first in London and then in Paris. O'Neill Powell's side made the top 4 in all 8 tournaments thus far this season, pointing to their consistent performances since the opening tournament in Dubai in December last year. Well, there was a lot of good news on the injury front, though, with Chris Dry, who underwent knee surgery in December, recovering well as he aims to be ready for the Rugby World Cup Sevens in San Francisco from 20th to the 22nd of July. That is a wrap-up of SABC Newsroom this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We do it weekdays between 9 and 12 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow. We leave you with the weather forecast.
Very good day and welcome to the weather desk. Now, taking a look at the satellite image, we see a couple of things. One, we're seeing that there are no clouds in the southern part of the continent, and of course in the extreme northern part. Then they're all sitting here over the central interior, and with that we are expecting some rain. I'll get to that in a second. First, let's take a look at the temperatures in the extreme southern parts of the continent. Now, as you may know that yesterday we had a cold front cooling down temperatures, especially in the Western Cape province. We're seeing now the effect of that cold front. Behind it, very cold temperatures, Sutherland only peaking at 17 degrees, Cape Town at 18, and all along the southern coastline we're seeing the shade of green showing us that it is cool, especially over the eastern Cape's interior, including Lesotho, as you can see here in the shade of green. But as we move towards the eastern parts, looking at the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, KwaNongoma, Ulundi, we're seeing now warm to hot temperatures, especially in the Lowveld, looking there, and the Lowveld in Mpumalanga and Limpopo provinces, where we're seeing highs of above 30 degrees. Looking at the Beitbridge, which is peaking at 31, it is hot even in southern parts of Mozambique, Madagascar peaking at 32, clear skies for both Zimbabwe, Botswana, including Namibia, which is peaking at 26, capital city Windhoek. And further north now, we do see that these rains here, as they do at this time of the day, we're seeing clear skies and calm weather. But as the day progresses, we're seeing it developing, becoming more but isolated over the central interior of the DRC. But overnight now, we're seeing this rain just moving slowly along the border between the DRC and the Central African Republic. And with that, we're expecting some some heavier rains. As you can see, it is highlighted in a darker shade of purple, and of course in places just closer towards Cameroon. Otherwise, for tomorrow in the morning, this is the same picture that you have today. We're seeing clear skies and a calm day over most of the DRC. Now, your temperature is 32 is your high in Kinshasa, Libreville at 30 degrees, still hot in the Central African Republic. We're seeing Bangui peaking at 34, including South Sudan. Juba is at 34 as well, while in Ethiopia, it's a different picture. The highlands have cooled down due to the rains, seeing Addis Ababa at 26. And as we move down towards the southern parts, we're seeing warm temperatures in Mombasa at 28 and Dar es Salaam also at 28. But Kenya's interior, in Nairobi, we're seeing half 23 cooler temperatures. Then in the northern parts, clear skies mostly, but you see the rain now moving towards places like South Sudan and moving further north, but not really reaching most of Sudan, where we'll see in a second that is very hot. Temperatures reaching highs of 43 there in Khartoum, 39 in Al Fasher, while as we move towards the central interior, still hot in Al Jawf with a maximum of 32 degrees. Over most of the Middle East, very hot temperatures, 39 in Mecca, and Riyadh at 37 and Cairo 32. Now, as we move towards the western parts, it gets interesting. We're seeing rains developing around about 12 o'clock. As you can see, they have developed over most of the central parts of Africa. We're seeing these rains in the Central African Republic, including the DRC, going towards Cameroon. But in West Africa, it's a different picture. It hasn't developed at 12 o'clock. We're seeing lots of clear skies. But just after 12 o'clock, around about 2 and 5 o'clock, we're seeing lots of rain here over the coastal areas, including the adjacent interior. Not really reaching places such as Bamako in Mali and N'Djamena in Niamey, but it is only along the coastal areas. And of course, just like always, it's dissipating overnight. And tomorrow morning, this is the picture that you're getting, clear skies across Nigeria and most of these West African countries. Now, your temperatures are as we expect. We're seeing very hot temperatures in places such as Mali, including N'Djamena, 41 degrees, 44 in Niamey, Agadez, also in the extreme hot temperatures. And that's where I will leave my weather. Have yourself a great day.